Close your eyes, and let the weight of the present loosen from your shoulders. Feel the steady rhythm of your breathing, as the noise of the modern world grows distant, and the silence of an older world rises to meet you. We begin far back in time, so far that the names of kings are carved not in books but in stone, so far that the wind itself seems to remember the prayers of ancient voices. The air is warm, but it is not the heat of your world. It is the heat of a sun that has watched the birth and death of empires, the sun that once poured gold upon a river called the Nile. Here along its banks, the desert blossoms into a ribbon of green, and life clings to the water's edge as if the river were a god. For the people of this land, it is. Beyond the fields and villages rise monuments so vast that they seem less built than summoned from the earth itself. Pyramids that scrape the sky, temples whose pillars are carved with stories older than memory, statues whose faces have stared unblinking through sandstorms and centuries. In this land, one figure stands above all others. Not merely a ruler, not merely a man, but the living bridge between heaven and earth. The Pharaoh. His crown is more than gold. It is the sun's fire, the weight of the gods, and the burden of every soul who lives beneath his reign. He commands armies and harvests, but also the flooding of the river, the turning of the stars, the balance of all that exists, what the people call Mot. To serve the Pharaoh is to serve the gods. To speak against him is to invite the collapse of the world itself. And so, generation after generation, Egypt bows its head in devotion, offering labor, love, and life itself, to keep the throne steady. Yet behind the splendor lies shadow. Palaces echo with whispered conspiracies. Families turn inward, marrying brother to sister, to keep the bloodline pure, and with it the dangers of that choice. Some rise from the dust to wear the crown, others are buried beneath it. The Pharaoh's life is one of ritual, power, and constant vigilance. For the gods are watchful, and so are his rivals. Tonight, we will walk with them. We will rise with the morning sun over the Nile, follow the sacred path into temples heavy with incense, stand in the court where life and death are decided with a word. We will descend into tombs carved deep in the earth, where the dead wait for eternity with treasures beside them. And as we journey, we will see them, not only as gods, but as men and women with hearts that could love, hands that could wound, and minds that feared the same shadow we all must face, the shadow of death. So breathe deeply. The wind of the desert carries us now. The first light of dawn glints upon gold, and our steps will take us into the age of the god-kings, to the very moment when the world believed that immortality could be built from stone. Breathe in slowly, and let your mind drift back. Back beyond the maps you know, beyond the borders of the world as it is, until the land beneath your feet is warm with the breath of a river older than memory. The Nile lies before you, a ribbon of life winding through an ocean of sand, its banks glistening with dew in the first trembling light of morning. You hear the slow, patient rhythm of water against reed boats, the low murmur of voices speaking a language carved in stone and sung in temples. And rising from the earth like a mountain made by human hands, a figure sits in silence. The Pharaoh. To his people, he is not merely a man. He is the beating heart of the two lands, the embodiment of Horus upon the earth, and when he draws breath, it is as if Egypt herself inhales. The sun touches his brow, and in that golden light his face becomes eternal. Time will not wrinkle it, sand will not bury it. The centuries will come and go, and still his gaze will hold steady toward the east, toward the place where Ra, the sun god, begins his daily voyage across the sky. You are in his presence now, and all around you, the air is thick with meaning. The rustle of linen, the scent of incense, the cool shadow cast by his stone image, all of it part of a world in which every movement is ritual, every gesture a thread in the tapestry of cosmic order. The delicate balance of heaven and earth, the rhythm of planting and harvest, the laws of men and gods alike. It is the Pharaoh's sacred duty to preserve it, not with armies alone, nor with laws carved in hieroglyphs, but with the living act of being divine. And so, from the moment he opens his eyes at dawn, his life unfolds in a pattern as precise as the stars. Priests purify him in cool water drawn before sunrise. They anoint his body with oils infused with myrrh and lotus, each fragrance a prayer in scent. His hair is combed and bound beneath a crown heavy with the weight of centuries. The crook and flail, symbols of kingship, are placed in his hands, and with them, the burden of all Egypt's fate. In the courtyards, officials kneel. In the kitchens, servants prepare offerings of bread, beer, figs, and honey. In the temples, musicians pluck the first notes of hymns that have no beginning and no end. The day has begun, not for the man, but for the God-King. And yet, behind the gold, behind the carved smiles and perfect symmetry of his likeness, there is a heartbeat. There is the weight of dreams remembered from sleep, of decisions that will shape thousands of lives, of fears whispered only to the gods in the stillness of night. The Pharaoh is divine, but he is also human. And here, in the hush before the day's first decree, you feel both truths at once, that he is above you, and that he is like you, bound to the same fragile thread of life. The sun climbs higher, the statue's shadow shortens. The god rises to walk among his people, and the Nile flows on, eternal as his reign, eternal as the dream of Egypt itself. The palace does not shout. It does not need to. Its walls, pale as bone and vast as the horizon, speak in the language of eternity. They have stood through the birth of princes and the fall of rivals, through floods that blessed the land and droughts that tested the people's faith. Here is the beating heart of the two lands. Lower Egypt to the north, where the river spreads into a green delta that touches the sea, and Upper Egypt to the south, where the Nile runs swift and narrow between cliffs of stone. All of it flows into this place, into the court of the Pharaoh. You pass beneath the towering pylons. The carved figures upon them are not simply decoration. They are proclamations in stone. The Pharaoh smiting enemies, offering tribute to the gods, standing between chaos and the fragile order of the world. The air here is cooler, shaded by colonnades painted in bright, impossible colors. Reds as deep as sunset, blues stolen from the lapis of faraway mountains, golds that catch every flicker of light. Even the shadows seem deliberate, falling in patterns that mirror the stars above. Servants glide across polished floors in soft sandals, their heads bowed, eyes lowered. Each carries the scent of the palace on their skin, lotus, cedar, and the faint tang of incense that clings to every wall. The throne room waits at the center, its doors flanked by guards whose bronze armor glints like the scales of a sacred crocodile. They do not speak, but their spears and steady gazes speak enough. The throne is more than a seat. It is a mountain. It is the axis around which the universe turns. Its arms are carved with the heads of courtiers gather in a semicircle, their linen garments crisp, their wigs glistening with oil. Each has been summoned for a reason: to bring news of the harvest, to petition for judgment in disputes, to present tributes from lands beyond the desert. They speak in the measured tones of those who know that a single careless word can tilt the balance of their lives. In this chamber, silence is a weapon. It can grant mercy or announce doom. The Pharaoh listens, not with the impatience of an earthly king, but with the stillness of one who believes he hears through the ears of the gods themselves. When he speaks, his voice is measured, his words heavy with ritual precision. For here, even language is part of Mot. Beyond the throne, a series of inner chambers stretches like a maze. Storerooms filled with tribute, archives where scribes bend over papyrus scrolls, private rooms where the air smells of perfumed oils and the walls are painted with gardens and birds. Yet for all its beauty, the palace is not free of shadow. Behind closed doors, alliances form in whispers. Eyes watch the Pharaoh's every step, weighing his strength, waiting for a moment of weakness. Even in the heart of divine order, human ambition moves silently, as patient and dangerous as a crocodile beneath still water. The palace is a sanctuary and a stage, Every footstep upon its floors is part of a performance, one that has played out for centuries, and will continue for centuries more, as long as the Nile flows, and the gods permit the sun to rise. Its back rises like the prow of a ship. When the pharaoh sits here, he is not simply a man upon a chair. He is the sun in the sky, the Nile in flood, the falcon god Horus in human form. The day begins not with words, but with silence. A silence so deep you can hear the faint crackle of incense on hot coals, the whisper of linen robes brushing against polished stone. Here, in this inner chamber of the palace, the pharaoh is not yet the ruler of Egypt. He is a man, naked, bare of crown and scepter, standing in the quiet before the first act of the day. The priests approach in slow procession, their feet bare, their eyes lowered. In their hands they carry the implements of transformation, water drawn from the Nile before dawn, its surface unbroken until it was poured into bronze basins, oils pressed from flowers that bloom only once each year, powders of crushed malachite and galena, to be painted around the eyes as both protection and divine mark. They begin with the water. It is cool against his skin, its touch a ritual cleansing that is as much spiritual as it is physical. The priests murmur prayers with each pour, invoking Horus, invoking Are, invoking the balance of Ma'at to settle upon the pharaoh's body. Then come the oils, lotus, frankincense, each rubbed into the skin with long, deliberate strokes, each scent a reminder that the body is the temple through which divine will is expressed. The air grows thick with fragrance, until it feels as if the entire room is floating on perfume. The pharaoh's hair is combed and bound. Fine strands of gold are woven into it, catching the morning light so that it seems to shimmer like the sunlit surface of the Nile. A collar of gold and turquoise is placed around his neck, its weight both beautiful and unyielding. Finally, the crown is brought forward. It is heavy, heavier than its size would suggest. Not merely because it is gold, but because it carries the weight of centuries, of the divine mantle passed from one ruler to the next since the first unification of the two lands. The priests lift it slowly, and as it settles upon his brow, something changes. The man who stood before them is gone. In his place stands the living Horus, the bridge between heaven and earth. He steps down from the dais, the crook and flail placed in his hands. The doors of the chamber open, and light pours in, the same light that fell on the faces of every pharaoh before him, the same light that will one day fall on the faces of those yet to come. Outside, the palace stirs to life. Messengers hurry through the courtyards. Musicians pluck at strings in preparation for the morning hymns. The scent of baking bread drifts in from the kitchens, mingling with the perfume of the sacred oils. The day's performance is about to begin. The god walks toward his throne. Egypt holds its breath. The gates of the palace open. First comes the sound, the low, steady pulse of drums, a heartbeat carried on the morning air. Then the scent, incense drifting ahead of the procession, its sweet smoke curling above the crowd like a visible prayer. The avenue stretches before him, long and straight, lined with sphinxes whose stony faces do not flinch in the rising heat. They are the silent guardians of this road, watching every step, measuring the worth of those who pass. The people are waiting. They have been here since before dawn, gathered in small knots that now swell into a sea of white linen and sun-browned faces. Some hold flowers. Some hold their children high, whispering that this moment, is one they must remember for all their lives. The pharaoh steps into the light. The chariot glints like captured sunlight. Its wheels, bound with bronze, flash with each turn as the white horses step forward, their harnesses studded with turquoise and lapis. The pharaoh stands tall, the crown blazing upon his head, the crook and flail resting in his hands. His gaze is steady, fixed ahead toward the temple, but he does not fail to notice the way the crowd bows as one, like wheat bending to the wind. Ahead of him, the priests walk in perfect rhythm, their bare feet silent on the stone. They scatter petals, casting them into the air so they drift down like fragments of the sun. From the censers, incense coils upward, blurring the edges of the world, turning the avenue into a path between realms, half in Egypt, half in the domain of the gods. Musicians follow, their sistrums shaking with a dry, metallic whisper, flutes singing in high, clear notes, harps strumming chords that seem to hum in the very bones of those who listen. The music is not merely entertainment. It is a bridge, a way to guide the pharaoh from the mortal realm into the sacred space that awaits. The temple looms closer. Its pylons rise like mountains, carved with images of the pharaoh himself, not as he is now, but as the eternal figure who stands forever in the company of gods. There he is, offering bread to Osiris. There he is, embracing Horus, receiving the breath of life from the ankh held to his lips. The gates stand open, and in their shadow, two colossal statues watch. Their eyes are fixed forward, but you feel, as all gathered here feel, that they see everything. The chariot slows. The pharaoh steps down. The crowd falls silent. He will enter the temple alone, for this part of the journey belongs only to him and the gods. The drums fade, the incense hangs heavy in the air, and the people watch as their living God crosses the threshold into the house of eternity. Here, inside the circle of stones, the world narrows. The wind still passes overhead, whispering through the grass. But it no longer belongs to the outside world. It moves differently here, slower, quieter, as if the very air has been taught reverence. You are standing within a space where the first gods were not sculpted in imagination alone, but given body, given weight, given the cold permanence of stone. These pillars, they do not lean, they do not bow. They are upright as the first trees after the snows melt, as steady as the spine of a hunter returning from the plain. And yet each bears marks, not the simple scratches of survival, but the deliberate language of faith. The foxes leap across the face of one monolith, tails streaming like fire through the stone. The vultures spread their wings on another, watching with cold, knowing eyes, guardians of the threshold between breath and silence. And there are hands, human hands, chiseled into the great T-shaped pillars, their fingers closed around nothing, perhaps holding the weight of the invisible. The people who walked here did not come casually. They climbed the hill in slow procession, bearing water, berries, bones, and the quiet heartbeat of awe. Their footsteps were not the hurried steps of survival, but the measured rhythm of ceremony. Every pace was a bead on the necklace of the ritual. Somewhere within these stones, someone would have spoken, a single voice, rising and falling, shaping the silence with a chant that belonged to no single tribe, but to all of them together. The words are lost to time, but their echo clings here like the scent of smoke in an old cloak. The altar waits at the center, its surface worn by hands and seasons. No gold ever lay upon it, no jeweled cup, no crown. Instead, meat from the hunt, grains gathered from the wild grasses, perhaps the blood of the first kill of spring. Offerings not of wealth, but of life itself. It was here that the living stood at the very edge of the unseen. Here that they spoke into the darkness, trusting the darkness to answer. Here that they looked upon the carved faces of fox and vulture and lion, and saw not merely animals, but masks worn by the spirits of the earth. The stone remembers more than it shows. If you listen, not with your ears, but with the marrow of your bones, you may still hear the low hum of 100 voices at prayer, the shuffle of bare feet on packed earth, the slow inhalation of a people standing in the house of their gods. And you will understand, this was not just a temple. It was the first theater of the soul, the place where humanity stepped forward, and for the first time, saw itself reflected in the eyes of eternity. Before the first stone was set, before the first pillar was raised, life was measured in breaths and blood. The hunt was not sport, not mere survival, but a conversation between humans and the earth itself, a covenant signed in sweat and the metallic tang of life spilled on soil. The hunters move as one with the land, feet whispering against the cracked earth, eyes tracking the shadows of their quarry, every muscle coiled, every thought sharpened to a single point. They are not yet kings, not yet priests, but the first intermediaries between flesh and spirit, between the living and the unseen. A goat pauses, ears flicking toward the wind. A gazelle's hooves beat softly against the ground. Time stretches, slow as honey, and the hunters hold it in their lungs like a prayer, waiting for the moment when instinct, skill, and fate collide. Then it comes, a rush, a breath, a heartbeat too loud in the silent plain. The spear arcs through the air, catching the first rays of dawn, and the earth drinks in what life is offered. Blood seeps into the soil, warm and fragrant, mixing with the dust and the scent of crushed grass, and the hunters bow their heads. Not in sorrow, not in triumph, but in recognition. This is the first covenant of human and divine, the offering that will echo through the halls of temples not yet built, through the carvings yet to be etched into stone. The fire waits nearby, small and patient. Here, the gift of life is transformed into sustenance, its smoke curling upward in thin threads that mimic the flight of spirits. The animals that gave their lives for the people are honored, their essence carried skyward, their memory etched into the consciousness of those who survived. And beyond the plain, the silhouettes of stone pillars watch, silent witnesses to the first ritual of blood and reverence. The temple, though not yet complete, exists already in intention, a bridge between the hunt and the altar, between the fleeting life of men and the enduring presence of gods. The hunters return, bodies weary, hearts steady, their hands stained with earth and blood, their eyes lifted toward the horizon where the sun rises. And they know, even in this first dawn, that their actions are a language, one the gods understand, one that the earth will never forget. Here, at the edge of survival and sanctity, humanity learns the first lesson of devotion. That life is precious, that the act of giving is itself sacred, and that every drop of blood shed in reverence echoes across eternity. The stones awaken not with a sound, but with the slow, imperceptible shift of light across their surfaces. Centuries have passed, and yet the carvings remain, a silent symphony frozen in stone. Each animal, each abstract glyph, a note in a melody older than memory. Step closer and you begin to sense their presence. The pillars do not lean, they do not bend. Yet somehow they feel alive. They hold the weight of every hand that carved them, every footstep that circled them, every whisper of prayer that drifted into their shadows. The mist clings low, curling around the base of the stones like smoke from ancient fires, and in it the carvings seem to breathe. The fox crouches, ready to leap. The boar's tusks glint in the half-light. The vulture's wings stretch wide, as if to carry unseen souls into the sky. All of them are frozen in eternity, yet they move in the mind's eye, alive in the ritual of remembrance. A lone priest walks among them, feet bare against the stone and earth. In his hands, a brazier of incense curls smoke in slow spirals. He moves carefully, deliberately, as though disturbing the air too quickly might break the bond between stone and spirit. He pauses at each pillar, letting the smoke drift around its base, and murmurs words that might once have been understood, by the living, or by the unseen. The circle is more than stone and carvings. It is a threshold, a place where the boundary between this world and the next is thin, so thin that one might imagine stepping through it with a single breath. Here, in this sacred geometry, time folds. Past and future meet. Hunters of long ago, priests of the present, and gods unseen. All occupy the same space, their lives intertwined in the slow dance of devotion and fear. Look closer at the ground. The offerings remain, faded but not forgotten. Small figurines of animals, pottery shards smoothed by years, and charcoal from fires that once burned bright with ritual. Each piece speaks of the people who came here, bringing their lives as tribute, seeking guidance, blessing, or absolution. And as the sun rises higher, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the circle, something shifts. The light touches the carvings just so, and for a brief, trembling moment, it is as if the stones themselves are aware of their role. To hold memory, to hold faith, to hold the first sparks of human devotion, and to whisper them into eternity. The circle awakens slowly, not with drum or chant, but with the quiet insistence of permanence. It has stood through storms, through droughts, through the passing of countless generations. And it will stand long after all human voices have faded, a testament to the first yearning for connection with the divine, a place where the living and the unseen meet, and where the heartbeat of devotion echoes still. The evening falls slowly, folding itself over the sacred circle like a dark, velvety shroud. The sun has slipped below the horizon, leaving only a soft wash of purple and gold to touch the edges of the massive stones. Fires are lit. Small bowls, carved from stone, cradle the glowing embers, and the flames leap and twist as though they have their own will. The air fills with the scent of smoke and burning resin, a fragrance meant to carry prayers upward, to stir the gods from their hidden places, and to remind the living that they are but shadows in a much greater design. The priests move with solemn precision. Every gesture is measured, deliberate, practiced over countless moons. They carry bowls filled with the blood of the hunt, blood drawn from goats, gazelles, and occasionally, the sacrifices of men who are deemed necessary. The crimson liquid glints in the firelight, a mirror to the fading sky, and as it drips onto the stone, it hisses softly, releasing a scent that mingles with the smoke and the earth itself. This is more than ritual. It is a contract, a binding of the living to the unseen, a statement that life, with all its fleeting beauty, belongs not solely to the people, but to the gods who watch, unseen and eternal. The circle of pillars seems to respond. Shadows stretch and twist along the carvings, turning the foxes into hunters, the vultures into sentinels of souls, the boars into wild guardians of the sacred ground. The carvings are no longer static, they move in the firelight, breathing, watching, remembering. The participants chant, a low, rumbling tone that fills the night air, rising and falling in rhythm with the crackle of flames. The chant is a bridge between life and death, between earth and sky, between the mortal hearts of men and the eternal will of gods. It is a language older than memory, older than the first stone raised, spoken in blood, in smoke, in the heat of the fire. As the ritual continues, the participants bring forth offerings. Small figurines, woven reeds, carved animals, each one a token of devotion, a plea for protection, or an acknowledgement of debt to powers beyond understanding. Every object laid on the ground, every drop of blood spilled, is a story written in the language of the sacred, a thread tying the living to the eternal tapestry of the cosmos. And when the flames reach their peak, casting long, flickering shadows across the circle, it feels as though the stones themselves are breathing. They inhale the smoke, they drink the light, and in that suspended moment, the living and the divine occupy the same space, bound together by the oldest human desire, to touch the eternal, to speak to what cannot speak back, and to leave a mark that will outlast the fleeting pulse of a single life. Here, in the circle of fire and blood, humanity glimpses the infinite, and though the night is dark, and the shadows dance like living things, the flame burns steady, illuminating not only the stones, but the first spark of devotion that will echo through the ages. Night descends like a heavy cloak, and the world outside the circle of stones begins to sleep. But here, within the sacred boundary, the stones do not rest. They watch. Silently, eternally, they bear witness to the passing of countless generations, their carved faces etched with the memory of every footstep, every whispered prayer, every act of devotion. The firelight has faded, leaving only the dim glow of embers that still linger like dying stars. The air is thick with the scent of smoke, earth, and stone, an aroma that has seeped into the memory of the place itself. Even the wind moves cautiously here, flowing around the pillars without disturbing the silence, as if it too is aware of the sacred vigilance that never sleeps. Look upon the carvings. Foxes crouch in patient stillness, eyes fixed upon some unseen horizon. Vultures stretch their wings against the moonlight, their gaze cold yet knowing. Lions and boars etched into stone seem almost ready to step down from their pedestals, to prowl through the night as guardians of what is eternal. In this quiet, the night itself feels alive. Each star overhead is a witness. Each whisper of the wind is a message. And every shadow stretching across the stone seems to contain a memory of lives long past. The priests have gone, the fires have dimmed, and the people sleep, wrapped in blankets of reed and fur. But the circle remains awake. It remembers the blood of the hunt, the smoke of offerings, the measured footsteps of devotion repeated across generations. It has seen births and deaths, beginnings and endings. And yet it does not tire. Sometimes, in the distance, a howl echoes across the plains. A lone wolf, or perhaps the memory of one from 1,000 years ago. It is a sound that reminds the living of the thin line between survival and eternity, between flesh and stone, between the temporal and the divine. And in the stillness, one begins to understand. The stones are more than observers. They are keepers of memory. They are guardians of the sacred covenant between humanity and the unseen. They endure beyond the reach of time, their silent vigil uninterrupted by wind, rain, or the passing of empires. Here, in the cold embrace of night, the circle of stones watches, waiting, listening, and remembering all that has been offered, all that has been spoken, and all that will one day return to dust. Even as the embers finally fade, even as the wind sighs softly across the plain, the watchers remain, immovable, eternal, their silent gaze bridging the fleeting lives of men and the endless sky above. The horizon lightens, and the first breath of dawn touches the stones, turning cold gray into soft gold, and shadows stretch like fingers across the circle, reaching to touch the carvings that have watched through the night. Morning arrives slowly here, not as an abrupt change, but as a patient unfolding, a quiet illumination that seems to awaken the very essence of the place. The circle of stones breathes again, responding to the subtle pulse of light, wind, and time. The priests return. Their movements are measured, deliberate, and patient, a continuation of a ritual begun long before memory itself. Bowls are filled with water drawn from distant streams. Grain and small figurines are laid at the base of the pillars, and the smoke from tiny incense fires drifts upward, twisting into shapes that the mind almost reads as living forms. Every step, every gesture, every whispered word is a thread, woven into the vast tapestry of devotion. This is not a single ritual, nor a solitary act of piety. It is the eternal rhythm of humanity reaching toward the divine, the cycle of life, death, and remembrance, repeating endlessly across generations. And the smell of the earth rises, sweet, dry, eternal. It is a scent that reminds all who enter that life and devotion are intertwined, that the ephemeral touches the eternal in ways both visible and unseen. In the soft glow of dawn, one can imagine the eyes of the gods watching, not from some distant heaven, but from within the carvings, the firelight, the rising mist, and even within the hearts of those who come to honor them. The circle listens, remembers, and welcomes each act of reverence as though it were the first. And so the ritual continues, not bound by time, not constrained by mortality, but endless, unbroken, and patient. Every offering, every prayer, every measured step is both ancient and present, a connection between the living and the eternal, between human hands and the unyielding stone. Here, at the dawning of the day, humanity remembers itself, not as rulers or subjects, hunters or priests, but as part of a continuum stretching back to the first sparks of consciousness, and forward to a future unseen. And in this remembrance, the circle of stones breathes, steady and eternal, carrying the essence of devotion into the morning light, and beyond, into eternity. The carvings catch the light. Foxes crouch, waiting to spring. Vultures tilt their heads skyward. Lions and boars seem to breathe with the warmth of the sun. The circle awakens fully, no longer just stone, but a living archive of belief, of longing, of fear, and of awe. Even the ground participates. The dust of centuries stirs with the footsteps of the faithful, blending with offerings, with the traces of past ceremonies. The shadow of the Pharaoh stretches long before him, not just across the land, but across time itself. He is more than man, more than mortal flesh. For the people see in him the presence of Horus, the earthly embodiment of divine will. From his shoulders hangs not merely a cloak, but the weight of an entire civilization. Every step he takes upon the Nile's banks is a measured claim to authority, an unspoken reminder that the balance of life, death, and the world's order rests upon his decisions, his rituals, his devotion. In his hands, he carries the scepter and the flail, symbols of power both protective and punitive. But power alone is not enough. The Pharaoh must embody Ma'at, the invisible thread of cosmic order, balancing sun, river, harvest, and human hearts, with a precision that few can comprehend, and fewer still can sustain. Behind the veneer of ceremonial gold and ritualized posture lies the pulse of a human being, a youth perhaps, uncertain of his role, yet taught that doubt is a danger, more lethal than any foreign army. He must be all things at once: king, priest, judge, warrior, son, and father. The land responds to him, almost as if it recognizes his presence. The Nile glistens like liquid silver in the early morning light, its floodplain fertile and alive, its waters carrying the promise of crops yet to grow. The desert beyond presses against the cultivated soil, a reminder of mortality, scarcity, and the ever-present threat of chaos. Attendants move silently around him, bearing offerings of bread, honey, and wine, each gesture precise, ritualized, a performance rehearsed countless times. The young pharaoh lifts a bowl of water toward the sun, an offering, a prayer, a bridge between the earth and the sky. And in that gesture, the land seems to inhale, acknowledging the covenant between man and divine, between ruler and realm. Yet even as he stands above the river, bathed in the first light of day, he is not untouched by fragility. Disease, intrigue, ambition, betrayal, all wait quietly at the edges of his court. The shadow he casts is not only his own, but that of all who would seek to claim what he has been entrusted to protect. And so the pharaoh walks, a single figure against the vastness of the Nile Valley, his presence both commanding and vulnerable, a human echo of divine authority. Every breath he takes, every eye upon him, every ritual performed, binds him to the eternal rhythm of life, death, and legacy. And the shadow he casts today will linger far beyond the span of his mortal years, carved not only into stone and memory, but into the very soul of a civilization yet to reach its zenith. The day has arrived that separates boy from king, mortal from divine. And the air is thick with expectation, with incense, and with the weight of generations. The coronation is not merely ceremony, it is the transference of authority, a tangible recognition that the pharaoh is now the embodiment of the God's will on earth. Every movement is deliberate. Every step, every gesture, every tilt of the head carries significance beyond comprehension. The crook in his hand represents guidance, a shepherd leading his flock through the fertile lands of the Nile. The flail represents discipline, the enforcement of Ma'at, the sacred order that binds the universe together. Priests chant in low, resonant tones, their words a bridge between the earthly and the divine. They speak the names of gods long revered, invoking protection, wisdom, and the endless continuity of cosmic balance. The pharaoh listens, his face composed, his heart aligned with the rhythm of their voices, each syllable a thread tying him to eternity. Around the dais, courtiers bow and kneel, their loyalty both a shield and a challenge. Some hearts beat with devotion, others pulse with ambition. For the rise of a pharaoh is always a time of both reverence and peril. Every eye upon him is a mirror reflecting not only his authority, but the fragile human essence beneath the gold and linen. The ritual reaches its climax. Water is poured from a sacred vessel over the pharaoh's hands and head, symbolizing purification, renewal, and the unbroken bond between land and ruler. Bread and wine are offered, their textures and flavors imbued with symbolic resonance. A gift from the people to the living God. And in that moment, the pharaoh is transformed. Not through magic alone, not through power of arms or the obedience of men, but through the recognition of an entire society, through the deliberate enactment of ritual, through the invisible threads that tie flesh to spirit, life to eternity. Yet beneath the ceremonial gold, beneath the divine mask, beats the heart of a mortal. Fear lingers at the edges, fear of disease, of betrayal, of the immense responsibility that will follow him through every sunrise and sunset. And still he stands unbroken, for in this moment he embodies the eternal paradox of rulership. Both God and man, protector and enforcer, master of the land yet subject to the unseen forces that shape it. The sun rises higher, illuminating hieroglyphs carved with the wisdom of ancestors, casting long shadows that mingle with the incense smoke, and the hall itself seems to breathe, a living vessel of history, power, and devotion. The pharaoh, now crowned, begins his eternal journey, each step a measured act, each word a declaration of the sacred duty entrusted to him, each heartbeat a link between the mortal and the divine. In the silence that follows the final blessing, the hall holds its breath, and one can almost feel the pulse of a civilization aligned with a single human will, as though the land itself recognizes the presence of the living God, and pledges, for a fleeting moment in time, its loyalty and its order. Before the world awakens, the pharaoh rises, not merely to eat, not merely to breathe, but to align himself with the cosmos, to weave his life into the eternal fabric of Ma'at. Each morning is a ceremony, a deliberate act of devotion, where even the smallest gesture, washing his hands, touching the sacred symbols, arranging offerings, becomes a thread connecting the mortal with the divine. The air is filled with the faint scent of incense, a perfume meant to carry prayers upward, to stir the gods from their distant abodes, to remind them that the earthly world is being tended with reverence and care. The priests chant softly, each syllable a pulse in a rhythm older than memory, and the pharaoh moves in harmony with their cadence, his actions precise, intentional, timeless. His meals are not mere sustenance. They are offerings themselves, selected, prepared, and consumed in a sacred order. Grains, fruits, wine, and bread, each element carries meaning. Each bite a reinforcement of his role as the living bridge between men and gods. The pharaoh's body becomes a temple in miniature, a vessel of purity and authority, maintained not for comfort, but for the endless work of balance and order. The palace walls echo with quiet rituals, hands washing, oils anointing the skin, prayers recited, glyphs traced with deliberate reverence. Every movement, every breath, every glance is recorded in the silent ledger of eternity. For the pharaoh is never merely himself. He is Horus incarnate, Ra's envoy, the axis around which the river and the land revolve. Outside, the Nile glimmers with the reflection of a rising sun, its waters bringing life, its currents symbolizing the eternal flow of time. And the pharaoh's eyes, lifted toward the horizon, see both the present and the future, the fields he must protect, the people he must guide, the gods he must honor. Even as courtiers and servants move quietly around him, he remains both distant and intimately connected to all within the palace. A single gesture, a wave, a nod, a look, carries weight, its significance understood in silence by all who dwell within the court. And in these small, ritualized acts, the pharaoh maintains not only his image, but the cosmic balance itself. By midday, the devotions continue. The pharaoh visits shrines, offers prayers at temples, listens to reports from priests. Each moment of life a carefully maintained harmony between duty and devotion. And though his body is human, mortal, vulnerable, his presence radiates something that transcends flesh, an authority rooted in divine legitimacy, a ritualized perfection that shapes the land and the lives of those who inhabit it. Through these daily devotions, the pharaoh exists in a space between worlds, human yet divine, fragile yet commanding, temporal yet eternal. Every heartbeat, every measured breath, every ceremonial act serves as a reminder that the life of a God King is both an ordinary life and a covenant with the infinite, a devotion that must be performed without fail, without distraction, and without the indulgence of doubt. In these quiet hours, the foundations of Egypt itself are reaffirmed, and the living God walks the earth, bearing the weight of kingdoms, rivers, and the ever-watchful eyes of the unseen. Even the God King must walk among those he rules. He steps carefully, deliberately, each footfall a bridge between the divine and the mortal, each glance a reminder of authority tempered with presence. The people pause in their labors, their hands stained with earth, their eyes lifted in awe. For the Pharaoh is no longer a man in their midst. He is the living embodiment of cosmic order, a reflection of Horus walking the earth. Farmers offer baskets of freshly harvested grain. Children present small garlands of flowers, and elders bow with reverence. Their gestures a silent acknowledgement of the delicate balance that keeps Nile, land, and people in harmony. The Pharaoh receives these offerings, not with indulgence, but with solemn gratitude, for each gift is a reaffirmation of the sacred covenant between ruler and realm, between human and divine. He observes the life around him with careful attention. The ebb and flow of labor, the rhythm of trade, the laughter of children, all are woven into the greater tapestry he governs. Even in his silence, his presence guides the village, reminds them of order, and inspires both respect and devotion. To his subjects, he is protector and judge, sustainer of life, and living testament to the gods' favor. The market stalls are alive with color and sound. Pottery clinks as it is arranged, woven mats rustle in the breeze. The murmur of voices rises like a gentle river. And through it all, the Pharaoh moves, an axis of calm authority, his every gesture observed, memorized, and understood. His eyes, bright yet serene, seem to drink in the world around him, recording the faces of those he has sworn to protect. Yet, even among adoration, there is an awareness of fragility. Whispers of discontent, envy, and ambition linger at the edges. The God King must remain vigilant, for loyalty is as delicate as papyrus, and power, though divine in appearance, is sustained by perception, ritual, and order. Still, in these interactions, a deeper connection exists. The Pharaoh touches the pulse of his people, sees the cycles of labor and feast, of birth and death, and understands that his authority is not only claimed, but constantly reaffirmed through devotion, service, and daily life. He is a living conduit through which the gods' favor flows, and every gesture, every moment of attentiveness, sustains the fragile balance of human and divine. As the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows across the village, the Pharaoh's presence becomes a quiet rhythm, a steady heartbeat upon which the lives of thousands rely. In this communion of ruler and subjects, order is maintained, faith is strengthened, and the shadow of the Pharaoh stretches far beyond the visible horizon, touching both the earth and the unseen, linking the mortal and eternal in an unbroken circle of devotion. Behind the grandeur of the palace, behind the ceremonial gold and ceremonial splendor, a quieter, more dangerous world exists, a world where the pulse of ambition beats steadily, and every smile, every gesture, every whispered word carries weight beyond measure. The Pharaoh's household is a universe unto itself, a microcosm of the larger kingdom, where power, desire, loyalty, and jealousy intertwine in an intricate web. Queens and concubines walk the halls with careful grace, their eyes observing, measuring, calculating. Each step is choreographed by both love and strategy, for in these corridors, a glance can elevate a life, or consign it to obscurity and ruin. Royal children, heirs to the throne, grow under the scrutiny of both gods and mortals. Tutored in the ways of divinity, governance, and ritual, their laughter often hides the weight of expectation. Their games a subtle training in strategy, influence, and survival. Even play is not innocent here. It is a rehearsal for the roles they must one day assume, a preparation for the intricate dance of succession and survival. Courtiers and advisors, learned and cunning, navigate the labyrinthine politics of favor and influence. Every word spoken in private council rooms, every plan whispered in shadowed corridors, may shape the destiny of the pharaoh, the dynasty, and the nation itself. Loyalty is precious, suspicion inevitable, and the sharpest minds often wield their words as weapons as much as the swords they carry. Intrigue is constant, subtle, and relentless. Marriages within the royal household are strategic, often designed to preserve the divine bloodline. Siblings may become spouses, cousins may be elevated to positions of power, and alliances shift like desert sands, quietly reshaping the balance of authority. It is a world where trust is rare, and even the most devoted servant may harbor ambitions of their own. Yet amidst this tension, the household thrives in ritual and order. Daily offerings are prepared with meticulous care, banquets are arranged to honor gods and ancestors, and ceremonies unfold with precision, reinforcing the sacred authority of the pharaoh. Through these rituals, the chaos of desire, ambition, and rivalry is tempered, and the invisible threads of Ma'at are woven into every corner of palace life. Even the pharaoh, supreme and divine, is subject to the currents of this human complexity. He must weigh the council of advisors, navigate the ambitions of queens and princes, and maintain the delicate balance between fear, respect, and loyalty. A misstep, a word spoken too harshly, a favor granted or withheld, can shift the tides of power within these gilded walls, with consequences that ripple far beyond the palace gates. In the quiet of night, when the corridors are dim and the shadows long, the palace whispers its secrets. The stone walls, the carved reliefs, the gleaming floors, all witness to plots, alliances, betrayals, and fleeting triumphs. And through it all, the pharaoh remains, both sovereign and strategist, divine ruler and mortal participant, ever vigilant, ever aware, standing at the center of a world balanced precariously between devotion and ambition, between the sacred and the human. The hunt is more than sport. It is a ritual, a demonstration of strength, courage, and divine favor. The pharaoh, God incarnate, rides across the land as both protector and conqueror, his eyes scanning the horizon for the swift movements of prey, his hands steady upon the reins, upon the bow, upon the instruments of mastery. Every arrow loosed is measured, every spear thrust calculated, for the hunt mirrors the eternal struggle of order against chaos. The desert and the floodplain, the wild and the cultivated, are all arenas where the pharaoh proves his dominion, not merely over beasts, but over the forces that threaten Ma'at itself. Attendants and courtiers follow closely, their presence both a practical necessity and a ceremonial acknowledgement that the ruler's strength is inseparable from his divine mandate. The hunt is observed, recorded, ritualized, a performance as much for the gods as for the people, an embodiment of authority expressed through skill, courage, and command. The animals, swift and wary, become living symbols of the challenges the pharaoh must face. Unpredictable, cunning, and requiring mastery through vigilance and decisiveness. To strike successfully is to demonstrate not cruelty, but control, a harmonious alignment between human skill and divine will. In the pauses between the chase, the pharaoh performs small rites, touching the earth, offering a drop of water, murmuring prayers to Horus and Ari. The hunt, though violent, is framed as sacred, its purpose not mere conquest, but affirmation of cosmic balance, a lesson to both men and gods that order is maintained through strength, wisdom, and ritual. The sun climbs higher, and sweat glistens upon the pharaoh's brow. Yet his posture remains regal, his gaze unwavering. He is both mortal and immortal in these moments, a living bridge between earth and sky, flesh and divinity. Each arrow, each leap of horse and rider, echoes the eternal rhythm of the world, the ceaseless struggle of survival tempered by reverence. When the hunt concludes, the pharaoh does not merely rest. The captured or killed game is presented in ceremony, offered to the gods, shared among the household, its significance transcending sustenance, becoming an act of devotion, an acknowledgement of life taken, life sustained. Through the hunt, the pharaoh teaches, demonstrates, and embodies his role. Protector of the people, guardian of the land, enforcer of divine will. It is a ritual of strength and responsibility, a visible sign to all who watch, that the God-King commands not only obedience, but harmony with the natural, spiritual, and human worlds alike. As dusk approaches and the last rays of sun illuminate the desert, the pharaoh returns to the palace, triumphant yet humble, aware that his true victories are measured not in prey taken, but in the continued balance of Ma'at, and the unwavering loyalty of a land that watches, listens, and remembers. Monuments are not built merely of stone, but of vision, will, and the audacity to touch eternity. The pharaoh conceives these structures as more than shelters or tombs. They are eternal declarations of divine authority, physical manifestations of Ma'at made tangible, stretching from the fertile banks of the Nile toward the heavens themselves. Every block laid is deliberate, every line measured, every symbol inscribed with care. The labor is immense, stretching across years, sometimes decades, yet it is both a practical and sacred endeavor. The workers, the architects, the scribes, all contribute to an act that transcends mortality, transforming raw stone into testimony, an assertion that the divine will can shape the earth itself. Temples reach upward, obelisks pierce the sky, and pyramids rise with geometric precision, aligned with celestial bodies in a language older than memory. Through architecture, the pharaoh communicates with the gods, each monument a beacon, a prayer in stone, a reflection of the eternal cycle of life, death, and resurrection. Yet these grand visions are not without cost. The toil of human hands, the sweat and blood of labor, become part of the very structure itself, woven invisibly into the monument's enduring essence. The pharaoh's power is made visible in stone, but the echoes of sacrifice, devotion, and relentless effort resonate through every chamber, every passage, every intricately carved relief. In the act of creation, the pharaoh becomes both ruler and participant, an orchestrator of human effort and divine purpose. He does not merely command, he inspires, embodies, and ensures that every measurement, every symbol, every offering is aligned with cosmic order. The workers may not see the stars that guide the pyramid's axis, yet their labor is sanctified by intent, their hands guided by the vision of the living God. As sunlight fades and shadows deepen across the site, the monuments themselves seem to breathe, casting long, silent reflections on the desert's sands. In them, the pharaoh's presence endures, a tangible reminder that mortality is transient, but human ambition, devotion, and reverence can carve permanence into the world. Through these architectural marvels, the pharaoh reaches beyond his lifetime, creating a bridge between generations, between man and God, between the fleeting river waters and the eternal sky. The structures stand as silent witnesses, bearing testimony to ambition, piety, and the profound human desire to leave a mark upon both earth and eternity. And as night falls and torches flicker across the partially completed monuments, the pharaoh contemplates not just the stone, but the legacy of his reign, the eternal rhythm of Ma'at, and the enduring reminder that the deeds of mortals can aspire to echo in eternity, long after flesh has returned to dust. In the cadence of the year, festivals rise like the waters of the Nile, bringing together the divine, the mortal, and the eternal. The pharaoh, crowned with the authority of the gods, becomes both participant and spectacle, his presence a living affirmation of the cosmic order. The streets pulse with life, music, dance, and devotion entwined in a ritual rhythm that echoes across the land and into the heavens. Citizens present offerings, their hands lifted, their voices hushed or singing. For in these moments, the ordinary touches the extraordinary, and the human world aligns with the sacred. The pharaoh moves through this living tapestry, not merely as a ruler, but as the embodiment of divine will. Each gesture, each blessing, each movement is deliberate, a careful weaving of authority and piety, intended to reaffirm his connection to the gods, and to remind the people that order and prosperity flow from the favor of their living deity. Priests chant in unison, their voices resonating like the tides, their words invoking gods long revered, calling upon Ra, Horus, and the pantheon to witness the ritual. The pharaoh responds with equal care, offering libations, lifting sacred symbols, his eyes fixed on the heavens, his posture perfect, his every motion a reflection of Ma'at in flesh and blood. The festivals are spectacles of unity and power, where wealth and devotion converge, and the grandeur of the pharaoh is displayed not for vanity, but for the reinforcement of a world in balance. Through music, dance, and procession, the divine authority of the ruler is made tangible, visible, and undeniable. Yet beneath the splendor, a human presence endures. The pharaoh, though revered as a god, feels the fatigue of hours spent standing, moving, blessing. Each smile must be measured, each gesture precise, for a misstep could unravel the delicate threads of ritual and perception. Even in celebration, the weight of responsibility rests upon him, a reminder that mortal vigilance must accompany divine image. As torchlight flickers and shadows stretch across the city, the festival reaches its crescendo. The pharaoh lifts his arms in final blessing, and the air seems to pulse with the heartbeat of an entire civilization, its rhythms bound to the life, devotion, and will of the living God. In these festivals, the pharaoh's presence becomes eternal, inscribed in memory, in stone, and in the hearts of the people. The celebrations are not mere spectacle. They are affirmations of life, continuity, and cosmic balance, a living testament to the power and fragility of authority, and a vivid reminder that even divinity must be performed, day after day, year after year, in perfect harmony with the world it seeks to govern. The throne is both seat and burden, a place where divine authority meets mortal responsibility. The pharaoh listens as petitions are brought, as disputes are presented, as decisions of life and death, wealth and destiny, are laid before him. Each word spoken in this chamber carries the weight of consequence, and the God-King must measure every syllable, every gesture, every silent pause. Counselors and priests, generals and scribes, offer advice steeped in wisdom, ambition, or subtle persuasion. Their words intertwine with the pharaoh's intuition, experience, and understanding of Ma'at, the eternal order upon which all life depends. In this room, the balance of justice, the flow of resources, and the fate of countless lives rests upon a single decision. The pharaoh weighs each matter carefully, his gaze steady, his posture regal, yet his mind alert, as though scanning not only the present, but the ripple of consequences yet unseen. To judge incorrectly is to invite disorder, to disrupt the delicate harmony of the land. To act wisely is to reinforce cosmic balance, to demonstrate that divine favor and human insight can coexist in one mortal form. Some decisions are ceremonial, symbolic, reinforcing tradition and loyalty. Others are matters of life and death, disputes among nobles, or the distribution of vital resources during times of scarcity. Every verdict shapes not only the present, but echoes through history, remembered in inscriptions, in memory, in the lives of those affected. The pharaoh's mind is never at rest. Even as advisors depart and courtiers bow, the weight of responsibility lingers, a constant, invisible companion. Sleep is measured and interrupted, meals are hurried, for the God-King's vigilance must never waver. Each heartbeat is a reminder that the stability of Egypt rests upon his knowledge, his judgment, and his capacity to act with divine authority tempered by human wisdom. In moments of quiet, the pharaoh reflects on the fragility of his position. Power is vast, but it is contingent. Respect must be earned continuously, and the forces of envy, ambition, and resentment move silently in the shadows. Yet, it is through this crucible of counsel and decision that the pharaoh's authority is forged and maintained. his mortal presence elevated into the enduring image of divine kingship. As the sun sets and lamps flicker, casting golden light upon polished walls, the Pharaoh rises, knowing that every choice, every judgment, every action is both a test of mortal wisdom and a performance of divine duty. In the stillness of the chamber, the echoes of past decisions, past rulers, and past judgments remind him that he stands not only as a man, but as the living bridge between earth and eternity, the arbiter of life, law, and cosmic balance. To the Pharaoh, death is not an end, but a transformation, a journey to another realm where mortal flesh becomes eternal spirit. The tomb is not merely a resting place. It is a carefully crafted vessel for the soul, a sanctuary designed to preserve life beyond life, where the essence of the king continues to dwell among gods and ancestors. Every chamber, every corridor, every carved hieroglyph is deliberate, a map guiding the spirit through the perilous journey of the Duat, the underworld where challenges await, and where only preparation, ritual, and divine favor ensure safe passage. Artisans carve the walls with precision, depicting offerings, protective spells, and scenes of eternal abundance. Each line a prayer, each symbol a shield against chaos and destruction. Priests oversee rituals of consecration, chanting invocations to Osiris, Anubis, and the many gods who govern the afterlife. Incense curls in sacred patterns, its fragrant smoke rising as a bridge between the living and the eternal. The Pharaoh participates actively, performing gestures, blessing objects, and repeating words imbued with cosmic significance. Treasures, food, weapons, and symbols of power are carefully arranged, each item intended to serve the Pharaoh in the afterlife. Gold is more than wealth. It is the divine flesh of the gods, eternal and imperishable. Every vessel, every amulet, every piece of jewelry is an instrument in a sacred symphony, ensuring that the king's body and soul will remain whole for eternity. Mummification is the culmination of this preparation, a delicate, sacred process that preserves the body, allowing the Ka, the life force, to recognize its vessel. The Pharaoh's flesh is treated with oils and resins, wrapped meticulously in linens, each layer a shield, each knot a prayer, as the mortal vessel becomes a timeless receptacle for the divine spark within. Even as the tomb nears completion, the Pharaoh contemplates the impermanence of mortal life. Every carved relief, every object placed in the chamber, is both an assertion of power and a humble recognition of mortality. The grandest pyramid or deepest tomb is ultimately a refuge, a testament to human ambition intertwined with the eternal rhythms of life, death, and divinity. In the quiet of the subterranean halls, as torchlight flickers and shadows dance upon sacred walls, the Pharaoh moves with calm authority, aware that these preparations secure not only his own eternal journey, but the stability, reverence, and memory of the kingdom itself. The tomb is a bridge, a promise, a covenant between the mortal and the divine. Through its halls, the Pharaoh's presence endures, a silent, golden heartbeat in the eternal rhythm of Egypt, reminding all who come after that power, devotion, and ritual can transcend mortality, leaving a legacy etched in stone, gold, and the imagination of generations yet to come. In the silence of sacred spaces, the Pharaoh comes closest to the gods. Beyond the eyes of courtiers and the awe of subjects, he moves with humility and reverence, recognizing that his power is not merely earthly, but drawn from a vast, unseen order that governs all life. These encounters are both personal and performative, moments where divine presence is felt through ritual, symbol, and intuition. He kneels before statues carved from stone or cast in gold, traces the hieroglyphs with careful fingers, murmurs prayers that rise like incense, and listens for the subtle responses of the unseen. The tremor of a torch flame, the faint echo of chanting, the stillness of the temple air. Priests guide him through complex rites, their movements precise, their voices chanting in harmony with the rhythms of the cosmos. Each ritual is a bridge between the mortal and divine, an affirmation that the Pharaoh is both servant and embodiment, keeper of Maat, protector of land and people. In these moments, he contemplates not only the present, but the eternal, the cycle of life and death, the blessings of Ara, the protection of Horus, and the continuity of the dynasty. Visions, symbols, and omens become his counsel, whispering guidance that transcends mortal deliberation, reminding him that the world is ordered by forces beyond the palace walls. The pharaoh's encounters with the divine shape every action, from governance to festival, from battle to council. Even in private reflection, he feels the weight of the god's gaze, a constant presence that informs his decisions, guides his hand, and demands both courage and restraint. In the quiet of night, alone before sacred icons, the pharaoh may sense the subtle currents of fate, the intertwining of destiny and free will, the delicate balance that sustains the Nile, the people, and the very land itself. Each breath, each gesture, each moment of devotion is a silent acknowledgement that his mortal existence is inseparable from the divine forces that shape Egypt's enduring story. These encounters are not always dramatic visions or grand miracles. Often they are subtle, intimate quiet, the feeling of presence in a still room, the perfect alignment of a star, the way incense smoke curls and lifts as if alive. And yet, these small intimations are as powerful as any decree, reminding the pharaoh that to rule is not merely to command, but to commune, to harmonize, and to embody the eternal will of the gods. As dawn begins to break outside the temple, the pharaoh rises, renewed and resolute. He carries with him the quiet authority of those sacred encounters, the knowledge that his role is both immense and delicate, and the understanding that in serving the gods, he secures the harmony, prosperity, and enduring legacy of Egypt itself. Even gods must reckon with mortality. The pharaoh, revered as divine, is not immune to the frailties of flesh, to fevered nights, aching bones, and the whisper of disease that slips unseen through palace corridors. In private chambers, away from the adoring gaze of subjects, he confronts the undeniable reality of mortality. Attendants and physicians offer remedies, oils to soothe, herbs to heal, and rituals to invoke divine favor. Yet the efficacy of these interventions is limited, for the pharaoh's body, no matter how adorned or revered, is subject to the same laws as all men. The pulse of life is measured in moments, and even a god-king cannot escape the impermanence that shapes existence. Political intrigue shadows each vulnerable hour. Enemies within and beyond the palace watch for weakness, ready to seize opportunity, to manipulate loyalty, or to extinguish the line of succession through subtle or violent means. Even the most magnificent tombs, the grandest temples, cannot shield the pharaoh from the currents of envy, ambition, and mortality. Yet in the awareness of death lies profound responsibility. Every decision, every decree, every act of governance becomes a meditation on the balance of power and the endurance of legacy. The pharaoh must secure the succession, train heirs in wisdom and ritual, and ensure that the nation's stability does not waver with his absence. The weight of legacy presses as heavily as the crown itself. Monuments, temples, and pyramids are not mere displays of glory, they are safeguards, repositories of memory and reverence, designed to project the authority of a ruler long after flesh returns to dust. In illness and in contemplation, the pharaoh measures his deeds, considering what will endure, what will falter, and what echoes of divinity he leaves imprinted upon the land. Even in solitude he is bound to his people, to the Nile, to the cycle of harvest and flood, to the gods who guide the rhythm of life and death. The pulse of Egypt is entwined with his own, and in acknowledging vulnerability, he reaffirms the sacred contract that sustains civilization itself. As night falls, the pharaoh rests, aware that all power is fleeting, yet every act of devotion, every triumph, every moment of justice, can transcend the limitations of mortality. Through awareness of his own fragility, he embodies the paradox of divine authority tempered by human vulnerability, a living testament to the enduring tension between life and eternity. The gods watch silently, and in the quiet, the pharaoh's thoughts turn to the future, to the legacy of a people, the stability of a kingdom, and the eternal resonance of deeds performed with wisdom, courage, and reverence. The death of a pharaoh is both an ending and a beginning, a transition from mortal reign to eternal presence among the gods. Funeral rites are not mere ceremonies. They are sacred enactments of the cosmic order, rituals designed to ensure the safe passage of the king's soul into the duat, the eternal realm beyond mortal sight. Priests, draped in ceremonial white, lead the way, their voices lifted in chants that ripple through the city. Each word a protective charm, each intonation a bridge to the divine. Incense curls in sacred spirals, perfuming the air with scents of myrrh, frankincense, and sacred oils, its smoke ascending as a tangible thread connecting earth to heaven. The sarcophagus, a masterpiece of gold, gemstones, and sacred inscriptions, holds the mummified body, transformed into an eternal vessel. Every amulet, every symbol, every layer of linen has been arranged to protect, guide, and empower the king in the afterlife. The procession moves slowly, deliberately, each step measured, each gesture imbued with devotion and reverence. Citizens line the streets, bowing and offering garlands, their eyes reflecting awe, grief, and veneration. Soldiers march in precise formation, maintaining order, while musicians play the somber cadence of loss, reminding all that while the pharaoh's mortal presence is gone, his influence, his authority, and his divine essence endure. The journey to the tomb is a ritual enactment of cosmic principles. The Nile, lifeblood of Egypt, mirrors the celestial river, symbolically carrying the soul toward its eternal destination. Obelisks and temples stand as silent witnesses, marking the alignment of mortal ambition with divine will, each structure a testament to the pharaoh's enduring place in the order of the universe. Once within the tomb, sacred rites continue. Priests recite spells, light torches, and perform offerings, guiding the soul of the king through perils of the duat. The mummified body rests surrounded by treasures, sustenance, and symbols of authority, ensuring that in death, the pharaoh remains king, both on earth in memory and in the eternal realm of the gods. The funeral is more than ritual, it is a teaching, a reminder, that life is fleeting, that authority is both a gift and a burden, and that preparation, devotion, and reverence can transcend the limitations of mortality. In the solemnity of the ceremony, the people witness the union of earthly and divine, the embodiment of a civilization's values, and the continuity of Ma'at across time. As the last chants fade, torches burn low, and shadows lengthen, the pharaoh's journey continues beyond the eyes of mortals. The tomb becomes a portal, the sarcophagus a vessel, and the echoes of the king's life, his wisdom, his victories, his devotion, resonate through eternity, carving a legacy that will endure long after the desert sands reclaim the flesh, and the Nile carries memories to the sea. The pharaoh may pass from mortal sight, but his presence endures in stone, in memory, and in the very rhythms of the land. Monuments, pyramids, and temples are not merely constructions of brick and limestone. They are vessels of legacy, guardians of the stories, values, and authority of kings long gone. In every carefully carved hieroglyph, every towering obelisk, every colossal statue, the essence of the pharaoh is preserved, a dialogue across time between the ruler and those yet to come. The Great Pyramid, rising with geometric perfection, does not simply mark a grave, it declares permanence, stability, and cosmic order. Through architecture, the pharaoh speaks to eternity, his ambition, piety, and vision immortalized for all who witness. Temples echo with ritual even when human voices are absent. The alignment of walls, the placement of sacred altars, and the orientation toward celestial phenomena create a continuum where divine and mortal intersect, where each act of devotion or construction reinforces the authority of the past. Legacy is not confined to stone alone. The names of kings, recorded in inscriptions and annals, resonate across generations, influencing governance, culture, and religion. The pharaoh's deeds, victories, and wisdom are preserved in stories passed from priest to scribe, from teacher to child, ensuring that even the smallest act of justice or devotion can echo in eternity. Yet the monuments are also reminders of human toil. The hands that quarried the stone, carved the reliefs, and carried the burdens were guided by vision and necessity, devotion and obligation. The grandeur of a pharaoh's legacy is inseparable from the effort, sacrifice, and skill of countless lives. In this, there is a humbling truth. Immortality is built not by one, but by the communion of ruler and people, vision and labor, heaven and earth. Even millennia later, as winds shift the sands and the Nile reshapes its course, the monuments speak. They tell of kings who walked as gods among mortals, who sought to master both earth and eternity, and who understood that their ultimate power lay not in flesh alone, but in the enduring memory they leave behind. The pharaoh's legacy, etched in stone and spirit, remains a silent teacher that ambition, devotion, and reverence can transcend mortality, that human endeavor can touch the divine, and that the measure of a ruler is found not only in life, but in the enduring resonance of actions carried across generations. And as the sun dips below the horizon, casting the plateau in shades of gold and crimson, the monuments endure, steadfast, eternal, a testament to the balance of power, faith, and human ingenuity, and a reminder that the story of the pharaoh is forever entwined with the story of Egypt itself. The Nile is the lifeblood of Egypt, eternal, unyielding, a river whose rise and fall dictate the rhythms of life, death, and renewal. For the pharaoh, it is not merely a waterway. It is a living, breathing artery of the kingdom, a sacred force entwined with both practical governance and divine order. Every inundation is a promise of fertility, every dry season a test of vigilance and foresight. The pharaoh's duties extend beyond temple and palace walls, into the fields, canals, and granaries that sustain the land. To oversee the river is to oversee life itself, to ensure that the blessings of the gods reach every village, every farmer, every household. The river's currents mirror the cycles of cosmic balance. Its waters cleanse and nourish, just as the pharaoh's rule must guide and protect. Farmers, laborers, and fishermen participate in a sacred collaboration, their toil aligned with the natural rhythm of the Nile, their offerings and harvests acknowledged in temple ceremonies, their lives intertwined with the divine purpose embodied by the king. From the banks of the river to the grandeur of the capital, the Nile is a teacher, a mirror, and a conduit of power. The pharaoh studies its flow, its floods, and its whispers, understanding that the health of the kingdom is inseparable from the health of the river. Every decision about irrigation, taxation, and harvest distribution reflects a sacred responsibility, a stewardship ordained not only by law but by cosmic order itself. In the early hours, when mist rises over calm waters, the pharaoh may meditate upon the eternal patterns of the Nile, reflecting on the continuity of life and the fleeting nature of human existence. The river teaches patience, foresight, and humility, reminding even the most exalted ruler that power is not absolute, but dependent on harmony with the forces of nature and divinity. The Nile carries more than water. It carries memory, history, and promise. Its shores bear the footprints of generations, from laborers and scribes to kings and priests. Through its ceaseless flow, it binds the land together, its eternal presence a reflection of the enduring influence of the pharaoh. As the sun rises fully, gilding the river in molten gold, the pharaoh's gaze sweeps across the waters, seeing both the present and the future, the mortal and the divine intertwined. In the eternal rhythm of the Nile, the pharaoh finds assurance, guidance, and a profound reminder. To rule is to flow with life itself, to balance power with responsibility, and to leave a legacy as enduring and vital as the river that nourishes a civilization. The life of the pharaoh is orchestrated with meticulous precision, a daily symphony of ritual, duty, and divine performance. Every action, every gesture, every glance is measured. For in the court, the king embodies the will of the gods and the order of the cosmos itself. Mourning begins with purification. Water poured from sacred vessels, oils and ointments applied with care. Linen robes donned in prescribed patterns. Jewelry placed not merely for adornment, but as symbols of authority and divine protection. The pharaoh moves through these routines with grace and awareness, each motion a reflection of Ma'at, the eternal principle of harmony and balance. Attendants attend to his needs with quiet efficiency, offering food, drink, and messages from officials, while musicians fill the air with melodies designed to soothe, inspire, and elevate the spirit. Courtiers present reports, petitions, and ceremonial objects, all approached with reverence and a keen understanding of protocol. Meals are more than sustenance, they are ritual. Every dish, every cup, every bite is consumed with ceremony, symbolizing the connection between nourishment, divine favor, and the responsibilities of rulership. Even leisure is carefully curated, with poetry, music, and games performed under the careful eye of the pharaoh, reinforcing both culture and hierarchy. Throughout the day, the pharaoh receives delegations from across the land, hears disputes, grants favor, and offers counsel. Each encounter is layered with significance. To speak, to listen, to act, is to perform a divine role, and to maintain the delicate balance between human desire and sacred order. Yet within this structure lies a subtle humanity. The pharaoh feels fatigue, impatience, and reflection. He experiences joy at the arts, satisfaction at effective governance, and sorrow for those lost or betrayed. Ritual does not eliminate human emotion. It channels it, infusing every moment with purpose, discipline, and sacred intent. The palace is a stage where time, power, and devotion converge, where every action reinforces authority and every silence conveys wisdom. To witness the daily life of the pharaoh is to see divinity in motion, a living testament to the blending of mortal responsibility and eternal aspiration. As dusk approaches and torches are lit along the corridors, the pharaoh retires to private chambers. Yet even in repose, the rhythms of ritual and duty remain, a constant echo of the sacred order he embodies, and a reminder that in every act, whether public or private, the king's life is a continual affirmation of divine kingship, woven seamlessly into the life, the land, and the eternity of Egypt. The pharaoh is not merely ruler of land and law, but commander of armies, a divine general entrusted with the protection of Egypt and the maintenance of cosmic order. To lead men in battle is to act as the earthly instrument of the gods, where strategy, courage, and ritual converge upon the sands of conflict. Every campaign begins with preparations steeped in sacred observance. Weapons are consecrated, banners imbued with divine protection, and soldiers participate in rites designed to invoke favor from Horus, Ra, and the gods of war. The pharaoh's presence alone inspires loyalty, fear, and awe, for he embodies both mortal leadership and divine mandate. In the heart of the army, the pharaoh rides, a living symbol of authority, divinity, and courage. His eyes scan the horizon, his decisions shaping the movements of thousands, each choice a delicate balance between ambition, survival, and justice. Every advance, every maneuver, every charge is guided not only by strategy, but by the belief that the gods themselves watch, judge, and intervene. Battle is both earthly and sacred. Priests chant invocations to protect the king and his forces, while soldiers march in disciplined harmony, their steps and formations reflecting the eternal order of Ma'at. Even in the chaos of combat, ritual and devotion are maintained, reminding all that victory is not merely conquest, but alignment with divine will and cosmic balance. The pharaoh's victories resonate far beyond the battlefield. They secure borders, affirm authority, and demonstrate the enduring power of divine kingship. Yet every loss, every injury, every unexpected turn is a lesson in humility, a reminder that even the God-King is bound by mortal limitation, and that wisdom, courage, and foresight are as essential as divine favor. In the aftermath of battle, the pharaoh ensures that justice and order are restored. Captured lands are integrated, spoils are distributed, and rituals of gratitude and remembrance are performed. Temples receive offerings to honor the gods who guided the army, and the deeds of the pharaoh are recorded in stone and story, ensuring that the triumphs and trials of war endure as lessons for generations. The pharaoh's relationship with the army is both practical and sacred. He is protector, judge, and divine exemplar. Through his leadership, the people learn courage, obedience, and reverence. And the land is safeguarded not only by steel and strategy, but by the enduring authority of a ruler who stands as both man and God. As the sun sets across the desert, painting the sands in hues of gold and crimson, the pharaoh surveys his army, calm and resolute, knowing that the strength of Egypt lies not only in weapons or soldiers, but in the alignment of mortal will with divine purpose, and in the enduring harmony of leadership, courage, and sacred order. Festivals are the lifeblood of the kingdom, moments where devotion, spectacle, and sacred order converge. Through music, dance, and ritual, the pharaoh's divine essence is made tangible, a living testament to the harmony of gods, ruler, and people. The grand courtyards of temples come alive with vibrant energy. Priests chant invocations, their voices weaving a sacred rhythm that carries across the Nile, while dancers, adorned in brightly colored linen and gold, move with precision and grace, embodying the myths and stories of gods and ancestors. Every step, every gesture, every note of music is imbued with meaning, a celebration of life, power, and divine presence. The pharaoh presides as both master of ceremony and sacred participant. Elevated above the crowd on a ceremonial dais, he receives offerings, blesses the people, and enacts rituals that reaffirm his connection with the gods. Through gestures of scepter and ankh, he embodies Ma'at, ensuring that cosmic balance and earthly prosperity remain in harmony. Festivals also serve as a bridge between ruler and subject. Citizens bring offerings of fruit, bread, and flowers, each gesture a reflection of loyalty and devotion. Musicians and performers entertain, educate, and inspire, their art a vehicle for sacred stories, moral lessons, and cultural continuity. In this space, divinity and humanity meet, and the kingdom feels both unified and blessed. The Nile, flowing nearby, mirrors the vibrancy of celebration. Its waters reflect torches and sunlight, creating a luminous tapestry that links heaven and earth. The river itself becomes part of the ritual, symbolizing life, fertility, and the eternal flow of divine favor. Through these festivals, the pharaoh communicates far more than power. He conveys stability, continuity, and hope, demonstrating that leadership is not merely rule, but stewardship of land, people, and sacred order. The grandeur of ceremony reinforces collective memory, ensuring that the lessons, values, and reverence of the kingdom resonate across generations. As the sun dips low, casting golden shadows across temples and riverbanks, torches flicker, music swells, and incense rises in fragrant columns. In this luminous moment, the pharaoh stands at the heart of his world, a living conduit of the divine, reminding all that the celebration of gods and king is not merely spectacle, but the reaffirmation of life, order, and eternity itself. Even the divine pharaoh does not rule alone. At the heart of the palace lies a network of counsel, wisdom, and administration, where viziers, scribes, and priests ensure that the vast machinery of the kingdom functions in harmony with the will of the gods. Scribes, with steady hands and disciplined minds, record every decree, every trade agreement, every tax assessment. Their ink traces the story of a civilization, capturing the fleeting actions of mortal life and preserving them for eternity. Papyrus scrolls become vessels of memory, bridging the present with the future and mortal ambition with divine expectation. Viziers serve as the pharaoh's right hand, interpreting laws, overseeing resources, and maintaining order across a kingdom that stretches from the deserts to the fertile banks of the Nile. Their counsel is both practical and sacred, For each decision echoes the divine principles of Ma'at, balancing justice, prosperity, and cosmic harmony. Priests, advisors, and scholars gather in solemn consultation, offering interpretations of celestial signs, omens, and sacred texts. Through these deliberations, the pharaoh navigates the intricate intersection of religion and governance, ensuring that every action honors the gods and sustains the kingdom. The pharaoh listens with patience and discernment, aware that authority is reinforced not only by power or ritual, but by wise stewardship and the ability to translate divine guidance into practical rule. Each audience, each discussion, each decision reflects the sacred weight of kingship, where success preserves life and order, and failure risks chaos. Courtiers observe, learn, and participate in the unfolding of statecraft, their presence reinforcing hierarchy, loyalty, and cultural continuity. Through the meticulous work of advisors and scribes, the pharaoh's vision, decrees, and legacy are codified, transforming ephemeral human will into enduring cultural and political structures. In these halls, the abstract principles of divine kingship meet the realities of human governance. The pharaoh, while God-king in essence, relies on collaboration, insight, and the careful labor of devoted servants. Together, they sustain the delicate balance of the kingdom, ensuring that Egypt thrives under the alignment of mortal diligence and divine mandate. As daylight fades and torches are lit along the palace corridors, the pharaoh reflects upon the counsel received, aware that wisdom, like power, is a sacred trust, and that through this intricate web of advisors, scribes, and priests, the vision of divine kingship continues to shape the land, the people, and the eternal memory of Egypt. To eternalize the pharaoh, the gods themselves seem to have lent their hands through the skill of artisans. Every block of stone, every stroke of pigment, every carved relief is an act of devotion, a tangible manifestation of divine will and royal ambition. Artisans are not mere laborers, they are sacred collaborators in the creation of eternity. Stonecutters chisel with precision, guided by geometry, astronomy, and ritual, aligning massive structures with the stars, the sun, and the eternal rhythms of the Nile. Their hands shape monuments that reach toward heaven, bearing not only the likeness of the pharaoh, but the cosmic order he embodies. Painters and sculptors transform walls into vivid narratives, depicting gods, kings, battles, and rituals with meticulous care. Each hue, each line, each proportion carries symbolic weight, imbuing the spaces with meaning that transcends time. Through their artistry, history, faith, and power are made visible, inviting generations to witness the grandeur and authority of the divine ruler. The pharaoh supervises with a watchful eye, balancing practical oversight with ceremonial presence. He observes alignment, proportion, and adherence to sacred patterns. Understanding that these works are more than aesthetics, they are instruments of immortality. Through stone and pigment, his legacy is etched into the landscape, a testament to human ingenuity guided by divine purpose. Construction sites are alive with rhythm, discipline, and devotion. Ropes creak, hammers strike, and chants echo, mixing with the wind and the scent of limestone dust, forming an orchestra of labor and devotion that resonates across the desert. The pharaoh's vision, realized through these hands, ensures that both his name and his essence endure, long after flesh returns to dust and the Nile reshapes the land. The monuments serve not only as symbols of power, but as teachers, reminders, and sacred spaces. They proclaim victories, laws, and religious truths. They honor gods, ancestors, and the eternal rhythm of the cosmos. Through their scale, beauty, and permanence, the pharaoh's presence extends beyond mortal limitations, binding generations to memory, devotion, and cultural continuity. As sunlight wanes and shadows stretch across the desert plateau, the monuments stand unwavering, silent yet eloquent. Through the dedication of artisans and the vision of the pharaoh, mortality is confronted and eternity is grasped. In stone, pigment, and carved relief, the divine king and his kingdom endure, forever part of the eternal conversation between earth, sky, and human aspiration. For the pharaoh, time is not a mere succession of days, months, and years. It is a sacred cycle, a reflection of cosmic order, where the movements of stars, planets, and the sun dictate both ritual and governance. To understand the heavens is to understand the will of the gods, and by extension, the rhythm of life itself. Celestial events are interpreted as omens, blessings, or warnings. The rising of Sirius, heralding the inundation of the Nile, signals abundance, renewal, and the continuity of the kingdom. Equinoxes and solstices guide temple ceremonies, agricultural work, and religious festivals, ensuring that the pharaoh and his people remain in harmony with the eternal cycles of the universe. Time, in the eyes of the pharaoh, is both linear and eternal. Mortality is temporary, yet the cycles of the cosmos endure, offering a blueprint for order, stability, and the perpetual flow of Ma'at. The pharaoh's life is woven into this fabric. Each act of governance, each ritual, each architectural endeavor, mirroring the movements of celestial bodies and the eternal pattern of the heavens. Astronomers and priests meticulously chart the stars, recording positions, alignments, and patterns in sacred scrolls. Their observations inform decisions about ceremonies, construction, and divine observances. Through their calculations, the pharaoh's reign is synchronized with the cosmos, his authority sanctioned by the eternal dance of planets and stars. The Nile, flowing in its unending cycle, reflects the celestial order on earth. Its waters rise and fall, its currents nourish and shape life, echoing the grand rhythm of time above. In this interplay of river, sky, and land, the pharaoh finds both guidance and validation, aware that his mortal decisions are part of a cosmic continuity stretching beyond his lifespan. Rituals performed at dawn, noon, and dusk are not only acts of devotion, but affirmations of the pharaoh's alignment with the eternal. Each chant, gesture, and offering resonates with the cycles of day and night, life and death, growth and decay. Through these sacred observances, time becomes a living, breathing force, a medium through which divinity and kingship are sustained. In the stillness of night, beneath the vast expanse of stars, the pharaoh contemplates the eternal cycle, recognizing that while flesh is transient, order, harmony, and devotion endure. And through understanding and honoring the eternal rhythm, the pharaoh ensures that Egypt, its people, and his divine authority remain steadfast within the unbroken flow of time. The pharaoh's authority is inseparable from the divine pantheon, a living bridge between mortal men and the gods who rule the unseen realms. Every act of kingship, every command of state, is framed within a sacred network of deities, myths, and cosmic law. Ra, the sun god, embodies light, life, and creation. To honor Ra is to affirm the daily renewal of the world, to acknowledge that each sunrise is a divine gift, and that the pharaoh, as earthly manifestation of the gods, must perpetuate this cosmic order through worship, ritual, and governance. Osiris, god of the afterlife and resurrection, teaches lessons of continuity and judgment. The pharaoh looks to him for guidance on mortality, ethics, and the proper care of his people. In life and in death, the king seeks alignment with Osiris, ensuring that the legacy he leaves is just, enduring, and sanctified. Anubis, protector of the dead, reminds the pharaoh of the fragility of flesh and the permanence of the soul. Through rituals of mummification, offering, and ceremony, the king participates in the sacred cycle of death and rebirth, both for himself and for the realm he governs. Temples serve as the intersection of divine and earthly authority. Within their hallowed halls, priests interpret omens, perform ceremonies, and teach sacred knowledge. The pharaoh consults them not only as advisors, but as intermediaries between human desire and divine mandate. Through these sacred interactions, the king validates his own authority, reinforcing the belief that rulership is both a privilege and a sacred duty. Myth and governance are intertwined. Stories of gods, heroes, and creation shape laws, festivals, and moral expectations. The pharaoh embodies the principles of these myths: strength, wisdom, justice, and divine favor. To act in harmony with the pantheon is to maintain the balance of Ma'at, ensuring prosperity, stability, and divine satisfaction across the kingdom. Through devotion, offerings, and ritual, the pharaoh affirms that his power is not arbitrary, but ordained by the cosmos itself. Every gesture before a god, every temple ceremony, every dedication of a monument, is an act of both reverence and political authority. It is a living reminder that the mortal king's duty is to align human will with divine purpose. In the quiet moments within temple walls, surrounded by incense, stone, and sacred imagery, the pharaoh contemplates his role in this eternal web, the delicate balance of life, death, and divine favor, where kingship is both a human burden and a bridge to eternity. The Nile is more than a river, it is the heartbeat of Egypt, a sacred artery that nourishes both the land and the spirit. Festivals along its banks are living expressions of devotion, gratitude, and cosmic alignment. Through ritual, music, and celebration, the pharaoh and the people reaffirm their connection to the divine, honoring the gods who sustain life and the eternal rhythm of the river. Each festival begins with offerings, carefully prepared and presented to deities in temples and on riverboats. Grains, fruits, flowers, and incense are lifted in gestures of reverence, symbols of prosperity, renewal, and the human desire to align with higher order. The pharaoh presides over these celebrations, a living conduit between mortals and gods, ensuring that Ma'at, the sacred balance of the universe, is maintained. Music and dance fill the air, echoing across water and stone. Drums and flutes provide rhythm to the dancers' movements, while chants and hymns articulate prayers for fertility, protection, and divine favor. The festival is both joyous and solemn, a reflection of life's duality, celebration, and reverence intertwined. The Nile itself becomes a stage for ritual. Boats glide across the shimmering surface, carrying priests, offerings, and the symbols of deities. The river mirrors the sun, the sky, and the divine, creating a luminous link between heaven and earth. Its currents remind all participants of the eternal cycle of life, death, and renewal. For the pharaoh, these festivals are both public spectacle and sacred duty. Through presence, gesture, and blessing, he reinforces his divine role and authority. He embodies the principles of order and continuity, demonstrating that rulership is inseparable from devotion and cosmic responsibility. Through his participation, the kingdom witnesses the unity of people, land, and deity, a harmony that sustains Egypt through generations. The celebrations leave more than fleeting impressions. They are recorded in hieroglyphs, painted on temple walls, and remembered in oral tradition. The acts performed on festival days become eternal, echoing the ideals of kingship, piety, and cultural identity. The pharaoh's engagement with the Nile festivals is a living lesson that life, order, and prosperity are inseparable from ritual, reverence, and alignment with the divine. As the sun sets, gilding the waters in gold and crimson, torches flicker along the banks, illuminating faces lifted in awe and devotion. The river flows silently onward, carrying offerings, prayers, and the collective memory of a people. Through these sacred festivals, the pharaoh ensures that Egypt remains aligned with the eternal cycle, a kingdom nourished by water, worship, and the enduring presence of the divine. The preservation of the pharaoh's body is a ritual that transcends mortality, a sacred act bridging the ephemeral life of flesh and the eternal journey of the soul. Mummification is not merely a technical process, it is a profound expression of divine order, a careful orchestration that ensures the king's safe passage into the afterlife. Priests, guardians of sacred knowledge, prepare the body with meticulous care. Natron salts dehydrate the flesh, oils and resins cleanse and protect, and each layer of linen is wrapped with prayers, incantations, and sacred amulets. Every gesture is precise, every ritual recited with devotion, for even the smallest misstep could endanger the eternal journey. The pharaoh's organs are preserved, placed in canopic jars, each guarded by a deity. The heart, weighed against the feather of Ma'at in the afterlife, becomes both symbol and instrument of judgment, reflecting the moral and cosmic balance that the king maintained in life. Symbols, amulets, and painted scenes adorn the wrappings, depicting gods, protective spells, and pathways through the Duat, the realm of the dead. These inscriptions are not decorative, they are living guides, intended to instruct, protect, and empower the pharaoh's soul as it navigates the trials of eternity. The ceremony itself is both solemn and sacred, a convergence of magic, faith, and ritual expertise. Incense rises in fragrant columns, chants echo in measured rhythm, and offerings are presented to ensure the god's favor. Through this elaborate process, the pharaoh is transformed from mortal to eternal, his presence maintained even as his body rests within stone and linen. Mummification is also a mirror of power and prestige. The resources devoted, the skilled priests, rare oils, and precious linens, reflect the pharaoh's status as both ruler and divine intermediary. The grandeur of the tomb and the care of the body proclaim to the living and the dead alike that this king's authority endures beyond the limits of flesh. Even in death, the pharaoh's life remains structured by order, ritual, and cosmic alignment. Through mummification, Egypt's most revered rulers achieve continuity, becoming symbols of the eternal cycle of life, death, and resurrection. They remind the living that divine authority is inseparable from devotion, and that immortality is both a spiritual and cultural aspiration, woven deeply into the fabric of the kingdom. As the final linen is wrapped and sacred rites conclude, the chamber falls into silence, lit only by the flicker of torches and the presence of prayer. Here, in this solemn space, the pharaoh transitions from earthly sovereignty to eternal divinity, and the kingdom bears witness to the enduring union of human devotion and the eternal order of the gods. The tombs of the pharaohs are more than resting places, they are eternal sanctuaries, designed to preserve both body and spirit, and to manifest divine authority across time. Each tomb is a fusion of artistry, architecture, and sacred symbolism, a testament to the pharaoh's power, piety, and pursuit of immortality. Construction begins long before death, a monumental endeavor requiring skilled labor, artisans, and priests. Chambers are carved deep into rock, aligned with stars, cardinal points, and sacred geometry. Walls are adorned with murals illustrating myths, gods, and the journey of the soul through the Duat. Every corridor, every chamber, every hieroglyph is meticulously planned, ensuring that the pharaoh's passage to eternity is guided, protected, and sanctified. Treasure and offerings accompany the king: gold, jewelry, weapons, food, and ritual objects. These are not mere possessions, they are instruments of power for the afterlife, ensuring that the pharaoh's essence remains resplendent, capable, and divine. Even the arrangement of objects follows sacred patterns, reflecting cosmic balance, divine favor, and ritual efficacy. The tomb is guarded, both physically and spiritually. Priests perform consecration rituals, protective spells are inscribed, and secret entrances confuse tomb robbers, preserving the sanctity of the eternal dwelling. In this convergence of devotion, artistry, and strategy, the pharaoh's legacy is secured, a perpetual reminder of human ambition harmonized with divine mandate. Beyond the physical, tombs embody a spiritual philosophy. Death is not an end, but a transition, a continuation of life in the cosmic order. Through careful preservation, ritual, and symbolism, the pharaoh's soul is safeguarded, ensuring continuity of authority, reverence, and memory. The monuments of stone, gold, and pigment speak across millennia, bridging the mortal world and the eternal realms of gods. The grandeur of the tombs reflects the paradox of the pharaoh: mortal flesh seeking immortality, earthly power entwined with spiritual aspiration. Even in the shadowed silence of burial chambers, life, devotion, and cosmic order resonate, carrying the voice of kings and gods to generations yet unborn. As torches dim and shadows swallow corridors, The tomb stands as a timeless testament to human ingenuity, devotion, and the quest for eternity. Here, within the rock and ritual, the pharaoh transcends mortality, his life, power, and divinity preserved. In the enduring silence of stone, in the sacred geometry of his eternal home, and in the eternal memory of Egypt itself. Even in death, the pharaoh is not left alone. Guardians of the afterlife, both tangible and spiritual, ensure his safety and continued dominion. Shapti figurines, small servants of clay or wood, stand ready to labor in the pharaoh's name, to perform tasks that the soul may require in the duat, the realm of the dead. Each Shapti is inscribed with spells and prayers, activated by ritual to serve eternally, a testament to the belief that life, order, and duty extend beyond mortal boundaries. In their silent vigilance, these figures preserve the pharaoh's authority, guarding against disorder, neglect, and the chaos that might disrupt the sacred journey. Protective spells adorn every wall, ceiling, and sarcophagus. They invoke gods, ward off evil, and chart the correct paths through the underworld. The inscriptions are both guide and shield, ensuring the king navigates the duat safely, emerging as a triumphant spirit united with Osiris, eternal and unassailable. Anubis, guardian of mummification and overseer of the dead, watches from carved statues, his presence a constant reminder of divine protection and ritual precision. Other deities, each with specific roles and powers, stand in symbolic alignment, defending the pharaoh from spiritual threats and cosmic disorder. The afterlife is envisioned as a continuation of earthly responsibilities, but within a divine framework where the king's power and dignity must be preserved. Through Shapti, spells, and divine guardians, the pharaoh's essence remains active, authoritative, and eternal. Death is transformed into a stage of sacred duty, where even in shadow and silence, sovereignty persists. These guardians are also a reflection of human ingenuity and belief. The elaborate preparation of the tomb, the careful crafting of figures, and the meticulous inscriptions demonstrate a civilization attuned to both practical and spiritual dimensions of life and death. Every act, every object, every prayer is imbued with purpose, ensuring that the pharaoh's journey transcends the limitations of mortality. As flickering lamps illuminate the silent chamber, the pharaoh lies surrounded by vigilant guardians, each symbol, each figure, and each inscription an extension of divine will. Through them, the eternal order is maintained, the soul preserved, and the memory of kingship secured. In this interplay of faith, ritual, and devotion, the pharaoh moves beyond flesh, becoming an immortal participant in the endless rhythm of life, death, and cosmic harmony. The journey through the duat is the ultimate test of kingship, a passage where mortality meets the divine, and the soul navigates a realm of trials, mysteries, and celestial guardians. For the pharaoh, death is not an end, but a transition, a voyage toward eternal union with the gods. Anubis guides the king, ensuring safe passage past treacherous rivers, hidden pitfalls, and spectral adversaries. Every step is fraught with both danger and purpose. The spells inscribed on Shapti, tomb walls, and scrolls illuminate the path, acting as both map and shield against chaos that seeks to disrupt the sacred order. The pharaoh encounters divine beings who test virtue, wisdom, and preparedness. Are, Osiris, Thoth, and other deities observe the king, their presence a measure of his alignment with Mot, the eternal balance of truth, justice, and cosmic order. Success in these encounters is not merely spiritual triumph, but a validation of the pharaoh's earthly reign and devotion to the divine. Serpents, demons, and shadowed spirits challenge the king, symbolizing the chaos inherent in life, death, and the universe itself. Through prayer, ritual knowledge, and divine guidance, he navigates these threats, demonstrating mastery over both the seen and unseen realms. The river of the duat flows like the Nile, winding through shadow and light, its currents echoing the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. The pharaoh's journey is mirrored by the eternal movement of stars, aligning earthly order with celestial rhythm, and ensuring that the king's passage preserves cosmic balance. At the heart of the duet lies the judgment before Osiris. The pharaoh's heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the measure of truth and virtue. Victory here signifies harmony with the divine, granting the king immortality, honor, and eternal authority. It is both a culmination of earthly duty and a beginning of spiritual ascendance. Through this sacred voyage, the pharaoh becomes more than mortal. He is transformed into an enduring spirit, an eternal participant in the rhythm of cosmos, gods, and generations yet to come. The duet, though shadowed and perilous, is also a realm of promise, where the ideals of kingship, devotion, and cosmic order are eternally affirmed. As the pharaoh progresses through luminous corridors of light and shadow, guided by divine guardians and sacred spells, the mortal king is reborn into an immortal existence. His journey a vivid testament to the fusion of human aspiration, divine favor, and eternal order. In the eternal realm, feasting becomes both sustenance and sacred ceremony, a reflection of abundance, divine favor, and the continuity of life beyond mortality. The pharaoh's banquet is not mere indulgence, it is a ritual affirmation of authority, cosmic balance, and harmony with the gods. Tables groan under offerings of bread, fruits, meats, and wine, each item carefully prepared and imbued with sacred symbolism. Every flavor, aroma, and gesture carries spiritual significance, transforming nourishment into a conduit of divine energy. The king partakes not only for himself, but as a representative of Egypt, ensuring that prosperity, order, and divine blessing extend across realms. Shabdi servants move silently, performing duties in perfect harmony. Their labor reflects eternal obedience and devotion, reminding all present that service in the afterlife mirrors the ideals of earthly kingship. Through their gestures, the pharaoh's authority and influence persist, transcending time, flesh, and the boundaries of the mortal world. Gods gather at the feast, Ra radiates light across the table, Osiris smiles in solemn judgment, Thoth records every offering and prayer. Each deity participates in this eternal communion, blessing the king and reinforcing the sacred bonds between ruler, people, and divine order. The feast is more than celebration, it is a continuation of the cosmic cycle. Harvest, abundance, and sustenance are intertwined with the principles of Ma'at, demonstrating that balance, generosity, and reverence govern both mortal and eternal realms. The pharaoh's role as provider, protector, and sacred intermediary persists beyond death, his presence woven into the eternal fabric of the universe. Every element of the banquet resonates with ritual significance. Wine symbolizes life's vitality, bread the daily sustenance of humanity, and the offerings of animals and grains reflect the pharaoh's command over both earthly and spiritual domains. Through these acts, the eternal feast becomes a declaration. Life continues, order endures, and divine authority is unbroken. In the flickering glow of golden light and the gentle rustle of ceremonial movements, the pharaoh partakes in a feast that transcends time and space. Through ritual, devotion, and abundance, mortality is transformed into eternity, and the eternal presence of kingship is both celebrated and reaffirmed. The eternal feast is a testament to the ideals of Egypt: harmony with the divine, stewardship over life, and the seamless unity of earthly and spiritual realms. In this sacred banquet, the pharaoh stands immortal, sustained by divine favor, cosmic order, and the unending devotion of those who serve him, a ruler forever part of the eternal rhythm of life, death, and the infinite beyond. The sun is the eternal heartbeat of Egypt, its light sustaining life, guiding time, and illuminating the divine order. For the pharaoh, the journey of the sun god Ra is not myth alone, it is a living reality, a cosmic pattern that mirrors his own authority and the destiny of the kingdom. At dawn, Ra rises in his radiant bark, piercing the darkness with golden light that awakens fields, rivers, and cities. The pharaoh greets this daily miracle with rituals of devotion, offering prayers, incense, and gestures of reverence that echo the eternal cycle of life and death. Through these observances, the king aligns himself with the divine rhythm of the cosmos. By noon, Ra traverses the sky at the height of his power, his journey mirrored in the pharaoh's governance, ensuring that order, justice, and prosperity are upheld across the land. The light of the sun becomes both symbol and instrument, illuminating truth, punishing chaos, and sustaining Ma'at, the cosmic balance. As evening approaches, Ra descends into the underworld, navigating the shadowed realms and vanquishing forces of chaos before rebirth at dawn. The pharaoh contemplates this nightly voyage, understanding that death is not an end, but a journey of renewal, a cycle that must be honored and mirrored in both life and ritual. Through this connection, kingship and divinity are inseparable, each feeding and sustaining the other. Temples, statues, and obelisks are aligned with the sun's path, their geometry capturing the sacred voyage of Ra. Each architectural decision reinforces the pharaoh's role as the earthly embodiment of divine order, reminding the people and the gods that the kingdom exists in harmony with the heavens. The solar journey also carries deep spiritual significance. The sun's passage through night and day mirrors the pharaoh's own path through life, death, and eternity. To witness, honor, and participate in this cycle is to affirm the sacred continuity of existence, to acknowledge that the king's power is not temporary, but eternally sanctioned by cosmic law. Through observation, ritual, and devotion, the pharaoh becomes an integral part of the sun's sacred journey. He is both observer and participant, mortal and divine, ensuring that the rhythms of Egypt, the will of the gods, and the eternal cycles of life remain in perfect harmony. As the sun dips below the horizon, bathing the Nile and temples in amber light, the pharaoh reflects on his place within the eternal order. Aligned with Ra's journey, he stands as both ruler and witness, a living bridge between heaven and earth, light and shadow, mortality and eternity, forever entwined with the sacred rhythms of the sun. The pharaoh's power is inseparable from law. For in ancient Egypt, justice is divine, and kingship is the instrument of cosmic balance. To rule is not only to command, but to embody Ma'at, the eternal principles of truth, harmony, and righteousness. Courts and chambers are filled with the petitions of citizens, the grievances of neighbors, and the disputes of nobles. Every decision of the pharaoh is both judicial and sacred, a reflection of the cosmic order he is sworn to uphold. Justice is not simply human, it is divine, and the king's word carries the weight of gods themselves. Viziers and scribes record decrees and laws with meticulous precision. Their hieroglyphs are more than text, they are spells and affirmations, ensuring that every act of judgment resonates across time, anchoring the pharaoh's authority in both earthly and spiritual realms. The goddess Ma'at, ever present in symbolism and ritual, reminds the pharaoh that power without balance is chaos, and that moral rectitude is the foundation of enduring rule. The weighing of hearts, the rectitude of decrees, and the fairness of judgment are all reflections of the king's devotion to cosmic harmony. Law is intertwined with ritual. Before pronouncing judgment, the pharaoh may offer prayers or perform ceremonial gestures, acknowledging divine guidance in every decision. Even seemingly mundane acts, land distribution, taxation, or inheritance, are framed within sacred context, preserving the kingdom's balance and prosperity. The pharaoh's legal authority extends beyond human subjects. It governs temples, resources, and even the use of the Nile's waters. For every element of Egypt exists under his sacred mandate. Through law, he orders not only people, but the very fabric of society, nature, and divine favor. In this intricate interplay of governance and ritual, the pharaoh becomes both judge and priest, a mortal enacting divine will, a bridge between heaven and earth, ensuring that Egypt thrives in harmony with Ma'at, and that the kingdom endures through generations, blessed by both gods and ancestors. Even as petitions are presented, disputes resolved, and decrees inscribed, the pharaoh remains a living symbol of justice, a reminder that power is not only strength, but the sacred responsibility to uphold order, protect the weak, and honor the eternal law. Through the careful practice of divine law, the pharaoh secures not only his mortal reign, but the spiritual continuity of Egypt itself, forever binding justice, kingship, and cosmic harmony into a single, eternal vision. The grandeur of Egypt is etched in stone, and the pharaoh is both visionary and patron of this enduring legacy. Monuments are more than architecture, they are eternal declarations of power, piety, and cosmic order. Through temples, pyramids, and obelisks, the king binds the mortal world to the divine. Construction begins with vision and ritual. Priests sanctify the site, architects plan every alignment with celestial bodies, and artisans carve walls with images of gods, kings, and the eternal cycle of life and death. The act of building is itself a sacred ceremony, imbuing stone and space with the pharaoh's authority and divine mandate. Laborers move in rhythm, their chants echoing across the site, transforming toil into devotion. Each block lifted, each carving etched, is both a practical task and a spiritual act, ensuring that the monument will endure as a conduit between heaven and earth. Temples are living spaces of worship, their sanctuaries housing statues of gods and the king himself, who presides over ceremonies that maintain cosmic balance. Obelisks reach skyward, capturing the sun's light and proclaiming divine favor, while pyramids house the king's eternal body, guarded by spells, Shakti, and the sacred geometry of creation itself. Monuments are also instruments of memory. They celebrate victories, honor ancestors, and assert authority across generations. The inscriptions tell stories of divine kingship, heroic deeds, and sacred rituals, ensuring that the pharaoh's name and deeds remain unforgotten, etched permanently into the landscape and consciousness of the people. The pharaoh's presence is felt in every stone, every relief, every carved symbol. Through monumental architecture, he projects his power across time and space, reminding the living and the dead that kingship is eternal, that divine favor flows through both the land and its ruler, and that human creativity, devotion, and labor can touch the realm of gods. Even as dust settles and the sun dips below the horizon, the monuments stand as silent testimony. They speak of ambition, devotion, and the unyielding desire for eternity. Through these colossal works, the pharaoh ensures that Egypt remains aligned with divine order, that his reign, and the cosmic balance it embodies, will endure beyond the mortal lifespan, carved forever into stone, memory, and the eternal rhythm of the Nile. Within the palace, life unfolds as both ritual and theater, a daily demonstration of power, elegance, and divine order. Court life is meticulously orchestrated, where every gesture, every movement, and every glance conveys authority, status, and cosmic alignment. The pharaoh's morning begins with ceremonial cleansing and adornment. Priests and attendants purify him with scented oils, golden combs, and ritual incantations. His garments, robes of linen dyed with precious colors, and his crown, adorned with symbols of Upper and Lower Egypt, transform the mortal king into the living embodiment of divine kingship. Audiences and petitions are carefully managed. Courtiers present reports, advisors counsel on law, trade, and military affairs, while scribes record every decision with precision and ritual care. Even meals are conducted with ceremonial importance. Each offering, each sip, each bite imbued with symbolism, reflecting the balance of sustenance, order, and reverence for the gods. Entertainment, too, serves a sacred purpose. Musicians, dancers, and performers bring joy and ritual alignment, their art harmonizing with the pharaoh's presence, affirming both earthly delight and divine favor. Through these displays, court life becomes a living tableau, where aesthetics, devotion, and governance converge. Courtiers and family members participate in complex hierarchies. Their proximity to the king mirrors both favor and obligation. Intrigue and rivalry are ever present, yet carefully balanced by protocol, ceremony, and ritual. Even in opulence, the court is a theater of discipline, where power is visible, tangible, and reinforced at every moment. Through ceremonial movement, strategic gestures, and visual grandeur, the Pharaoh's court exemplifies the unity of divine authority and mortal administration. Every aspect of daily life, from the rising of the sun to the evening rituals, reflects the principle of Ma'at, ensuring harmony, stability, and continuity. In this grand theater of palace life, the pharaoh embodies the ideals of kingship, wisdom, strength, devotion, and balance. Surrounded by splendor, ritual, and devotion, he reigns not only as a mortal ruler, but as the eternal bridge between the divine and the earthly, the living testament to Egypt's eternal order and timeless majesty. The royal gardens are sanctuaries of beauty, ritual, and reflection, spaces where nature, divinity, and kingship intertwine. Here, the pharaoh walks among flowering trees and shimmering ponds, each step a contemplation of harmony, abundance, and cosmic order. Gardens are designed with precision, embodying sacred geometry, balance, and aesthetic perfection. Lotus flowers, reeds, and palms are carefully arranged, symbolizing rebirth, fertility, and the eternal flow of the Nile. Paths lead to shaded pavilions, fountains, and serene pools, where the pharaoh can meditate, perform rituals, or receive trusted advisors. Every plant, every fountain, every statue carries meaning. The scent of flowers, the gentle murmur of water, and the play of sunlight create a sacred environment, where the king's thoughts, prayers, and intentions are aligned with divine will. Exotic fruits and herbs are not only for sustenance, but for offerings, healing, and ceremonial use, each carefully cultivated to reflect the perfection of Ma'at. Servants and gardeners move with quiet devotion, attending to each detail with care, understanding that their labor supports both earthly life and spiritual harmony. The garden is both a space of pleasure and purpose, a living reflection of the pharaoh's role as caretaker of the land, the people, and the divine order. Royal gardens also serve as stages for intimate ceremonies. Priests may conduct purification rites beside reflective pools. Musicians may accompany rituals with gentle melodies, and the king himself may perform gestures honoring gods, ancestors, and the eternal cycles of nature. In these verdant spaces, the pharaoh finds solace and inspiration. Amid the vibrant blooms, flowing waters, and serene shadows, he contemplates his earthly responsibilities and his eternal journey. The gardens become a mirror of the cosmos itself, balanced, abundant, and perpetually renewing. Through careful design, ritual, and cultivation, the pharaoh's gardens are more than ornamentation. They are living symbols of authority, devotion, and cosmic harmony. Within these sacred landscapes, the mortal king is elevated, aligned with the rhythms of nature and the eternal order of the universe, and reminded that even in pleasure and beauty, life is a reflection of divine balance. Music in the world of the pharaoh is not mere entertainment. It is a bridge between the mortal and the divine, a medium through which harmony, devotion, and cosmic order are expressed. Ceremonial melodies rise from harps, lyres, and sistrums, their resonant tones weaving through columns, chambers, and open courtyards. Each note carries intention, an invocation, a prayer, a celebration of Ma'at. Drums echo like the heartbeat of the kingdom, linking earth, Nile, sky, and human spirit in a single rhythm of life. The pharaoh is both observer and participant. His gestures, responses, and presence guide the flow of music, transforming each performance into a sacred dialogue with the gods. Chants, hymns, and harmonies articulate devotion, celebrate victories, and mark the eternal cycles of the cosmos. Musicians and priests work in precise coordination. Rhythms, patterns, and tonalities are chosen for their spiritual efficacy, designed to elevate consciousness, repel chaos, and honor divine authority. Music becomes a living ritual, an audible manifestation of the king's power, wisdom, and sacred role. Even in moments of private reflection, the pharaoh listens to the subtle music of fountains, birds, and the wind. These natural harmonies reinforce the principle that all life, from the smallest leaf to the grandest monument, resonates with divine rhythm. In this sense, the palace itself is a symphony, its corridors, gardens, and halls instruments in an eternal composition. Music also accompanies offerings, festivals, and royal ceremonies, ensuring that every act of devotion is amplified and sanctified. The vibrations are believed to carry prayers to the heavens, guiding spirits, honoring ancestors, and strengthening the bonds between gods and king. Through the music of eternity, the pharaoh transcends mortality. Each chord, melody, and chant is a thread in the tapestry of the eternal kingdom, connecting earthly rule with cosmic harmony, and ensuring that the rhythms of life, death, and the divine remain inseparably intertwined. In every resonant tone, in every sacred melody, the pharaoh's presence endures. Through music, kingship becomes timeless, ritual becomes art, and the mortal becomes a vessel of eternal harmony, echoing across centuries, across the Nile, and into the realm of the gods. Beneath the golden splendor of the palace lies a world of shadows, where whispers, glances, and unspoken intentions carry weight equal to decree. Court life is a delicate balance of loyalty and ambition, and the pharaoh's authority is constantly tested by intrigue, rivalry, and secrecy. Every gesture of favor, every smile, every assigned duty is observed and analyzed. Princes, queens, viziers, and military leaders maneuver for influence, their ambitions hidden behind masks of devotion. Even the most trusted advisors may harbor private schemes, reminding the king that power, no matter how absolute, is never without danger. Secret messages pass between dimly lit corridors, sealed with rings, symbols, and the knowledge that a single misstep could mean death. Courtiers navigate an intricate web of alliances, where family rivalries, political ambition, and spiritual obligation collide. Assassins, spies, and informants are silent instruments in this invisible war, their presence felt but rarely seen. The pharaoh must remain vigilant, balancing trust with caution, wisdom with suspicion, for the survival of both king and kingdom depends on mastery of both public and hidden realms. Even within the royal family, tensions simmer. Marriages designed to preserve divine bloodlines create bonds of loyalty and suspicion alike. Siblings, offspring, and consorts may compete for status, favor, or succession, turning familial closeness into a theater of strategy and subtle conflict. Yet amidst these shadows, the pharaoh's brilliance shines. He interprets the subtle signs of loyalty and treachery, weighing intentions as carefully as he weighs justice in the halls of Mot. Every choice, every decree, every reward becomes a tool, not only of governance but of survival, perception, and power. In this world of concealed motives and silent danger, the pharaoh is both sovereign and strategist, a master of visible grandeur and hidden cunning alike. Through vigilance, wisdom, and ritual, he ensures that intrigue does not disrupt cosmic order, that the shadows serve the throne rather than consume it. The palace, radiant in ceremonial splendor by day, becomes a labyrinth of subtle maneuvering by night. In this duality, the pharaoh's power is fully revealed. He is not merely a god on earth, but a mortal king navigating the perilous currents of ambition, loyalty, and human frailty, ever aware that even the smallest whisper may alter the course of history. The pharaoh is not only a priest and ruler but also a warrior, a master of strategy, courage, and command. War is a sacred duty, a means of defending Mot, extending influence, and demonstrating divine favor through the prowess of the king and his armies. Armies are meticulously trained, disciplined, and organized, their ranks echoing the order the pharaoh maintains over his kingdom. Chariots, spears, shields, and bows are instruments of both survival and ceremony, each maneuver reflecting precision, strategy, and the will of the sovereign. Before battle, priests perform rituals to invoke divine protection. Offerings are made, incantations spoken, and omens observed. The king's own preparation is both physical and spiritual. He dons ceremonial armor, touches sacred symbols, and walks through prayers and gestures that align his actions with cosmic law. The clash of armies is a tempest of discipline and chaos. Yet the pharaoh's presence imposes order. He directs troops, inspires courage, and embodies the strength of the gods on the battlefield. Every victory is celebrated as a triumph of divine favor. Every defeat studied as a lesson in humility, strategy, and human limitation. Campaigns are not mere exercises in force, they are political instruments. Conquests secure borders, ensure tribute, and extend the reach of both mortal and divine authority. Cities are captured with a combination of strategy, diplomacy, and ritual. Their temples and monuments integrated into the pharaoh's vision of order and prosperity. Even in the aftermath of war, the pharaoh's role continues. He rewards loyalty, punishes treachery, and oversees the rebuilding of lands and sanctuaries. Through victory and governance, he affirms his position as both protector and divine ruler, ensuring that the principles of Ma'at prevail across every corner of Egypt. The art of war in the hands of the pharaoh is more than conquest. It is a sacred expression of authority, wisdom, and cosmic balance. Each campaign echoes through time, a reminder that kingship is forged in discipline, courage, and the unbroken alignment of mortal action with divine will. In the heat of battle and the calm of strategy, the pharaoh stands as both warrior and deity, a living testament to Egypt's enduring strength, its devotion to order, and the eternal legacy of kingship. The Nile is more than a river, it is the lifeblood of Egypt, a sacred artery through which the pharaoh channels both abundance and divine order. Its waters nourish the land, sustain the people, and reflect the cosmic harmony that the king is sworn to uphold. Every year, the river's flood is a miracle and a mandate, depositing fertile silt upon the fields, ensuring the cycles of planting and harvest. The pharaoh observes these rhythms with reverence, understanding that the health of the kingdom mirrors the balance of the Nile itself. Priests perform offerings and incantations along the riverbanks, invoking blessings from Hapi, the god of the inundation, and other deities who safeguard the flow, fertility, and prosperity of the land. The pharaoh's role in these ceremonies is both spiritual and symbolic, reinforcing his position as intermediary between gods, river, and people. Boats carry not only commerce but ceremonial tribute, reminding all that the Nile connects the earthly and the divine. Merchants and farmers, travelers and priests, all partake in a rhythm that is older than memory and eternal in its cycle. The river's movement becomes a living metaphor for kingship, constant, life-giving, and harmonized with celestial law. Beyond sustenance, the Nile is a theater of observation and insight. From its waters, the pharaoh discerns omens, tracks seasonal shifts, and contemplates the continuity of life and the passage of time. Its currents echo the flow of authority, duty, and divine favor, and the king's presence along its banks reassures the people that order, provision, and protection remain unbroken. The river also carries stories of the past, ancient boats, buried temples, and sacred groves. Remind the pharaoh that the Nile is a keeper of memory, linking generations, rulers, and gods in a continuous, living history. In every ripple, every reflection of sunlight, every whisper of reeds, the pharaoh perceives the mysteries of existence. The Nile is not merely water, it is life, law, ritual, and destiny. Through it, kingship flows, connecting earth to sky, mortal to divine, ensuring that Egypt endures, guided by the hand of the pharaoh and the eternal currents of the sacred river. Death, in the eyes of the pharaoh, is not an end but a passage, a sacred transition from mortal authority to eternal divinity. The veil of death is approached with meticulous care, reverence, and ritual, for the king's journey beyond life mirrors the cosmic cycles he has governed on earth. Preparation begins long before the final breath. Tombs are designed with precision, their architecture reflecting celestial alignments, sacred geometry, and symbolic thresholds. Every chamber, corridor, and passage is inscribed with spells and protective symbols, ensuring that the pharaoh's soul may navigate the underworld unharmed and attain a place among the gods. Mummification preserves the body as a vessel for eternity. Embalmers, working with sacred oils, resins, and linens, transform flesh into a form impervious to decay, while incantations guide the spirit toward its celestial destiny. Each artifact, from jewelry to ceremonial weapons, is chosen to serve, protect, and honor the king in the next life. Priests and attendants perform ceremonies, chanting hymns, offering incense, and invoking gods who guard the passage between worlds. The air is thick with the weight of ritual, a solemn acknowledgement that even the most powerful mortal must face the immutable laws of death. Burial practices also reflect authority and devotion. Retainers and symbolic servants accompany the king, while Shakti figurines stand ready to serve in the afterlife. Ensuring that even beyond mortality, the pharaoh maintains order, provision, and divine favor. The murals and inscriptions within the tomb depict cosmic journeys, triumphs over chaos, and encounters with deities. Through these images, the pharaoh's life, accomplishments, and sacred duties are immortalized, becoming a bridge between the temporal world and the eternal. As the final ceremonies conclude, the veil between life and death closes gently. The king enters eternity, not as a fallen mortal, but as a god in perpetual communion with Ra, Osiris, and the pantheon of Egypt. In death, as in life, the pharaoh embodies both human fragility and divine majesty, a living testament to the eternal cycle of creation, decay, and rebirth. The veil of death, though somber and solemn, is not feared. It is the ultimate expression of kingship, a passage through which the mortal king attains immortality, preserving the legacy of power, devotion, and cosmic harmony, for all generations to witness and revere. As centuries pass and empires rise and fall, the pharaohs endure, not as flesh and blood, but as monuments of memory and devotion. Stone and gold preserve their names, their deeds, and the ideals they embodied, casting shadows across the sands that speak louder than words ever could. Temples, pyramids, and statues are more than memorials. They are vessels of eternity. Through them, the stories of kings and queens resonate across generations, telling of divine authority, mortal frailty, ambition, and devotion. Even when kingdoms crumble and cities are lost to time, the legacy of the pharaohs persists, etched in stone, ritual, and human consciousness. Modern eyes marvel at the precision, the artistry, and the vision of these ancient builders. Archaeologists uncover tombs and treasures, while scientists reveal the humanity behind the myth, the ailments, the rivalries, the ambitions, and the fears. Through every discovery, the pharaohs become more than legends. They become mirrors reflecting our own desires for power, immortality, and meaning. Their legacy is also moral and philosophical. The pursuit of Maat, the devotion to gods, the integration of governance and spirituality, offer enduring lessons on the responsibilities of leadership, the necessity of balance, and the eternal dialogue between human and divine. Through art, ritual, and architecture, the pharaohs achieved a form of immortality, ensuring that even as centuries pass, their presence lingers in the sands, the river, and the collective memory of humanity. And so, the story of the pharaohs reaches its culmination, not in conquest or in life's fleeting triumphs, but in the eternal resonance of their existence. They walked among mortals as gods, yet faced the same fragility, ambition, and fear that define humanity. They built monuments to immortality, performed rituals to preserve cosmic balance, and devoted their lives to the pursuit of eternal order. In the quiet of the desert, beneath the gaze of stars, their legacies endure. The pyramids, temples, and statues are silent witnesses, speaking across millennia of kings who aspired to touch the divine, to govern with wisdom, to command with authority, and to leave a mark beyond the confines of mortal time. We, the inheritors of memory and history, look upon their achievements and their flaws, their devotion and their ruthlessness, and recognize in their lives the eternal human quest to find meaning, to preserve one's story, and to reach toward something that transcends death itself. The Pharaoh's journey into eternity reminds us that greatness is measured not only by power or wealth, but by the enduring resonance of one's deeds, the pursuit of order amidst chaos, and the courage to leave a legacy that whispers across the ages. As the desert wind moves through the sands, and the stars shine upon monuments carved with devotion, the Pharaohs live on, not merely in history books, not merely in stone, but in the imagination, awe, and reflection of all who look to the past, seeking the lessons, mysteries, and the eternal echoes of kings who walked as gods, and yet remained profoundly human.